Chapter 166. There's a saying that's right. It feels good to die, but in the blink of an eye, you'll be cremated. After Naruto gave Shizen a fart candy, Shizen gave Naruto a medical ninjutsu. What's that? It's a medical ninjutsu that uses chakra to generate an electric field by converting chakra in the body into electrons, and then entering the patient or enemy's body to disturb the nervous system. For the patient, it can have a nerve paralyzing effect by blocking pain. For the enemy, it can disturb the nervous system and disrupt the coordination of the body. For example, you want to leave, but your fist is clenched. You want to punch, but your foot is raised. Naruto's current state is the latter. He wanted to laugh, but the feedback of his nerves was coughing so hard that his lungs were about to be coughed out. In the end, he wanted to pinch himself, but he raised his hand and slapped to the side. Of all things, this palm landed on Silent Echo's chest. Tsunade didn't stop him. She wasn't afraid of things getting out of hand. Oh, Jiraiya was led astray by Tsunade and subconsciously said, "Oh." Then the cute dolphin followed suit. Oh. Shizen's eyes widened. Naruto was so desperate that he subconsciously retracted his hand, but his hand went forward instead. Although Shizen had almost no breasts, she was still a girl. After she reacted, she naturally gave Naruto a reverse grip and shoulder throw. Then the newly repaired carriage was broken again with a bang. Naruto rolled on the ground and almost hit the ground face first. Fortunately, when he wanted to raise his head, his foot kicked downwards. Naruto's reaction force spiraled into the air, and then he fell on his butt. Stand up? Sorry, I can't stand up. Naruto felt that he couldn't control his body at all, because he found that he couldn't figure out what the command was. When he wanted to raise his head for the second time, it was manually done. When he wanted to raise his head for the third time, his head hit the ground. Simply put, no matter what command he issued, his body would respond randomly. This was a pain in the ass. So Naruto lay on the ground obediently. When the carriage stopped, someone came to save him. Tsunade said to Shizen, "Quickly release the ninjutsu on Naruto's body. Naruto's body hasn't recovered yet." Although Shizen was unwilling, she couldn't disobey Tsunade's order. She roughly reorganized Naruto's nervous system. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief and sincerely explained, "Sister Shizen, I really didn't do it on purpose. I didn't want to touch your chest. Besides, your chest isn't as big as Jiraiya's. There's nothing to touch." Tsunade spat. Jiraiya's face, dark and mute, had completely turned black. In the next moment, he used chaotic body rush. However, Naruto was prepared. Although his body had not fully recovered and could not use chakra, Naruto's physical strength was still extremely strong. Therefore, he nimbly dodged Silent Note's palm. He continued sincerely, "I really didn't do it on purpose." Shizen's left hand crossed in front of her body, revealing several hidden weapons with needles. Her right hand pulled an elastic string, and then, several flying needles fanned out to attack Naruto. Naruto's strength erupted again. Without opening the Hashimen Tanku, Naruto's vision was no different from ordinary people. Therefore, it was impossible to capture the trajectory of the hidden weapons with the naked eye. However, Naruto could determine the path of the hidden weapons based on the direction of the needles in Shizen's hand. Once again, he nimbly dodged. 5 minutes later, Shizen saw that she couldn't do anything to Naruto and finally stopped. Tsunade mediated. "Okay, Naruto, hurry up and give the antidote to Shizen." Shizen's despairing fart sound effect didn't stop at this time, and the strawberry smell was getting stronger. Shizen also looked at Naruto. As a girl, she was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a place to bury herself. However, Naruto scratched his head and smiled. "There's no antidote." For a moment, Tsunade's eyes widened, and Shizen was on the verge of collapse again. Tsunade remedied. "Then the drug's effect should be over soon, right?" Naruto blinked and whispered, "The drug's effect isn't long, it's only for 24 hours. His voice was getting smaller and smaller because he saw that Shizen couldn't help but go berserk again. Fortunately, Tsunade stopped Shizen in time to avoid a human tragedy. Then she said to Naruto, "Then that drug should still be available, right?" Naruto's drug was too harmful. He couldn't let a girl fart for 24 hours straight. Even if it didn't stink, she would want to die. So he had to quickly prepare the antidote. Naruto's left hand touched the storage tool on his right wrist, and then a candy appeared in Naruto's hand. This durian-flavored one. Do you want it? Durian. Shizen's mouth twitched, and there was a trace of joy in her heart. Fortunately, Naruto didn't give her the durian-flavored one, or she would have really committed suicide. Tsunade nodded. Naruto threw the candy over. As a result, he didn't know what was wrong with her head, but she jumped up and swallowed the candy in one bite. She wanted to play. Bang. Pigs can't hold back their farts. Therefore, this fart was strangely loud, and it was accompanied by the smell of durian. Bang. Bang. After the single sound, it was replaced by a double sound. The sound of the fart was hearty, the kind that was emitting yellow smoke. The yellow smoke spread to the horse's nose, and the horse followed it. Naruto was much more alert, and the moment he saw the yellow smoke, he subconsciously held his breath. In addition, the wind was blowing in front of Naruto, so he escaped a disaster. Jiraiya wasn't so lucky. He didn't know if it was out of curiosity, but he smelled it and then pinched his nose. But it didn't matter if he pinched his nose or not. The important thing was that he smelled it, so a trio sounded. No, a quartet, and the coachman of the carriage. The only survivors, Tsunade and Naruto, jumped to the tree and said in horror, "Is your fart candy contagious?" Naruto carefully breathed and replied, "Maybe the durian flavor is a special effect candy, and the catalytic gas produced a little more ingredients." Tsunade nodded and felt that it should be the case. Puff ha? What's that sound? Naruto looked at Tsunade and asked, "Sister Tsunade, did you fart just now?" Tsunade blushed. "I didn't." However, the second sound was heard. "It's over. Tsunade is also poisoned." Naruto ran away. Tsunade stood in the tree for a long time and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Naruto, come back here. I want to clean up the house." Naruto didn't dare to stop, and ran quickly without looking back. He muttered, it's over. I also offended Sister Tsunade. I feel that this wood leaf can't go back. It's better to betray the village." But even if Naruto can use chakra, he's not necessarily faster than Tsunade. Now Naruto is still in the stage where he can't use chakra. Where can he run away? As soon as he ran out of 3 trees, he was caught by Tsunade. Then she hung Naruto upside down by his feet, and held Naruto in her hand. Naruto's eyes were watery, and he begged for mercy with a pitiful face. "Sister Tsunade, I was wrong, please forgive me this time." Tsunade smiled coldly. "Since I'm also poisoned, you can't run away," she said, and lifted Naruto behind Tuntun's butt. Naruto held his breath, but how long can he hold it? In the end he still breathed. He breathed when Tuntun didn't fart, but he didn't know that Tuntun was also waiting for him. Bang! With a loud sound, Naruto was sprayed yellow. The stench was so strong that he almost foamed at the mouth. 30 seconds later, Naruto couldn't help but start to fart. Boo! Tuntun was satisfied and cooperated. Bang! Tsunade, Shizen, Jiraiya. Bang, horse, bang, bang, bang. The coachman lifted his butt. Everyone got on the carriage, and a cloud of yellow smoke rolled over where the carriage passed. The weasel lying on the grass took a deep breath. Then there was a loud bang. It collapsed into the rabbit's nest behind it. The rabbit fell down with white foam at the mouth. Rabbit, this fart is poisonous. Chapter 167. On the rooftop of the Naruto building, Tsunade stood on top of the Woodleaf building and looked down at the entire Woodleaf. She sighed. Woodleaf has changed a lot. Naruto and Jiraiya stood behind him, accompanied by 2 of Konoha's current managers, 2 of Konoha's elders, Udatane and Mitokado Hamura, and 2 ninjas on standby. While there was also Shizen, who was holding Tubule and staring at Naruto from time to time. Since the fart candy incident, Shizen's attitude towards Naruto had changed 180 degrees. The gentle and considerate sister who used to be Naruto's lap pillow was gone. Mitokado Hamura looked at Tsunade standing on the edge of the Naruto building and sighed. "I didn't expect you to be able to invite her." This sentence was obviously directed at Jiraiya. Jiraiya laughed and said proudly, "This is nothing. How could she refuse a handsome guy like me? Ahahaha." Koharu looked at Tsunade's back. She still wanted Jiraiya to be the fifth Naruto, but now that Tsunade was back, she could only support Tsunade according to her agreement with Jiraiya. Thinking of this, Koharu felt a little sad that Naruto's position couldn't be given away. It seems we have to invite all the famous people from all over the world to celebrate her becoming the fifth Naruto. Gunma Aoba let everyone know about this. Following this order, Gunma and Aoba, who had been standing on the side for a long time, replied in unison, "Yes. Please." What Koharu said was please, and Naruto heard it clearly. But whether it was the tone or the expression, it was more like another word, let. But he was too lazy to complain about this. Naruto touched his head. The wind on the Naruto building was not small, and it was cold on the top of his head, so his heart was a little cold. Tsunade said that she would concoct a potion for him when she returned to the village. She's been back for half an hour. In fact, Naruto could also try to make it himself, but after all, it was a big deal related to hair, so it was better to be cautious. Tsunade stood on the rooftop of the Naruto building for a while. And then there were various handover matters. Naruto was like a little tail, running around behind him. From time to time he would help out, but Naruto's real intention here was not to express himself, but to medicine. Jiraiya looked at Naruto busying himself and couldn't help but ask, "Naruto, don't you usually store your sword? Why did you bring it outside today?" The main reason was that Jiraiya saw Naruto carrying a sword on his back and moving things back and forth. He felt that it was a hindrance. Naruto didn't even turn his head as he replied, "Naturally, it's easier to kill people outside." Jiraiya didn't understand and asked, "Kill who?" Naruto didn't reply, but muttered in his heart, "Whoever dares to laugh at my hair, I'll cut them." As he said that, there was a cry of surprise behind him. "Me? Naruto?" Naruto turned around with his eyes wide open. It was Sakura Haruno. That's not important. What's important is that Hinata is beside him. God damn it. Now the last person Naruto wanted to see was Hinata, because he felt that he was too unlucky, so he immediately turned his head and lowered his voice, "Sorry, you've got the wrong person." But this trick obviously didn't work. Then the two of them surrounded him. Hinata's small hands continued to poke each other in front of his chest and praised, "Naruto's bald head is also quite handsome." Naruto felt like he was being healed. Sakura Haruno touched on his sore spot. "Naruto, how did you get your hair?" Naruto's mouth twitched, and he replied with a dark expression, "Don't worry about how it's gone. I just want to know how to make it grow back quickly." Then he changed the topic. "You're here for business, right? Don't worry about me, hurry up and do business." When it came to business, Sakura Haruno's expression suddenly became gloomy. She said with some tears in her eyes, "Naruto, Sasuke was taken away by Orochi." Thinking about it, the only thing that Sakura Haruno cared about was Sasuke's matter. Naruto nodded and replied, "I know about this." Sakura Haruno's eyes were filled with tears. "Then come with me to find Naruto-sama and ask her to find Sasuke." Naruto comforted her. The current Naruto hasn't officially taken office yet, and she already knows about this matter, so there's no need to find her. In addition, the newly appointed Naruto-sama is very busy now. Super busy, and she still has to make medicine for me. So there's no free time today. Sakura Haruno said, "Has Naruto-sama decided to find Sasuke? Find him? How to find him?" Even the most powerful underground exchange didn't know where Orochimaru was hiding. And even if they knew, who would go? Last time, Orochimaru escaped from Jiraiya. This time, will Tsunade and Jiraiya go together? I'm afraid that Orochimaru will disappear without a trace when he gets the news. Moreover, Tsunade will soon take over. And I haven't heard of Naruto going out to do missions. And most importantly, Sasuke is leveling up in Orochimaru's place. Why do you want to join in the fun? Isn't that just making trouble? Naruto organized his words and persuaded, "Sakura, don't worry, go back and wash your face and sleep. I'll tell you when there's news." As it turned out, Naruto never persuaded people. Sakura Haruno stared at Naruto and said, "Even you are perfunctory with me?" Also, it seems that Sakura has hit a wall many times. Naruto complained in his heart, but he tried to save her. It's not perfunctory, but some things can't be rushed. Even if you make a mess of yourself, things won't change. Sakura Haruno's face became cold, and she shouted, Naruto, how can you be so cold-blooded? Sasuke is your teammate. I'm cold-blooded. Okay, Naruto was helpless, and he couldn't persuade Sakura Haruno. Naruto turned his gaze to Hinata and asked, Are you also here because of this? Hinata felt that the atmosphere wasn't right, and nodded with some fear. What did Kakashi say? Hinata pressed her fingers together. Kakashi-sensei went to perform a mission. What mission did Kakashi perform? Well, Sasuke wasn't there and he wasn't there either. Only Hinata was left, and it wasn't as convenient as moving by herself. Then you should go back and practice. Instead of wasting time on these meaningless things, it's better to improve your own strength. Hinata hesitated to answer, but Sakura Haruno grabbed Hinata's hand and walked towards Naruto's office. Hinata, let's go. Don't pay attention to this scum. I'm a scum again. Well, since your man dumped you, I won't argue with you. Naruto rolled his eyes and continued to walk into Naruto's office with a pile of documents. Jiraiya looked at Naruto's back and sighed. To be able to endure criticism and not get angry, Naruto has matured a lot. It's a pity that he's not my disciple. In Jiraiya's view, Naruto practiced hard every day in order to find Sasuke. He still remembered the expression on Naruto's face when he asked him if he could buy information about Orochimaru in the underground exchange. At the same time, in Orochimaru's secret base, the painful roar sounded like a curse from the abyss, making people's scalp tingle. Orochimaru stared at his hands. At this time, his hands were rotten to the point that the bones could be seen. The bones were dark, so it was very strange. Sasuke, hasn't he been cured yet? This sentence was asked with gritted teeth. Kabuto carefully replied. The surgery is only half done, at least 9 more times, and that's under the condition that he can persist. I'm afraid. Orochimaru's muscles trembled uncontrollably from the pain. He was almost unable to hold on, to be precise. This body couldn't hold on anymore. The ulceration in his arms was spreading to the rest of his body. Kabuto also saw it and proposed. Orochimaru-sama, I have prepared several bodies for you and, if you need, I can even offer them. Orochimaru replied in a low voice. It has to be Sasuke's body. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Then there was an uncontrollable roar. Kabuto clenched his fists. But the situation is urgent. The technique Naruto Sandaime-sama cast on you. The strength of the curse is far beyond our imagination. If you don't reincarnate quickly, everything will be over. Orochimaru didn't reply. He was in so much pain that he couldn't speak. He really couldn't hold on. Kabuto made up his mind to arrange for reincarnation as soon as possible. If Orochimaru suddenly died now, everything would be over. I'll select the elites you need for reincarnation. Please leave them to me. Orochimaru absolutely couldn't die. After leaving Orochimaru's ward, Kabuto walked all the way down to the prison at the bottom of the base. The young experimental subjects that Orochimaru had captured were all imprisoned here. The prison cell opened, and Kabuto's voice echoed in every cell. All of you listen to me. From now on, you will start killing each other until only one person is left. The last one who survives can leave this place. The seal on the iron door burned to ashes, and the people in the prison raised their heads one after another. The pairs of green eyes didn't look like they came from humans at all, but more like those of wild beasts, fiercer than wolves. Chapter 168. In Naruto's office, Naruto leaned against the wall with the documents in his arms. He planned to see how Tsunade would reply to the 2 girls. The result was beyond Naruto's expectations. Tsunade sat on Naruto's office chair, crossed her legs, and held her cheek with one hand. Sasuke's departure from the village is still under investigation. There is no evidence to prove that Sasuke was coerced to leave the village, so there is a possibility that he took the initiative to leave the village. If he took the initiative to leave the village, then this behavior can be classified as betraying the village. Before she finished speaking, Sakura Haruno panicked and shouted, Sasuke will never betray the village. It must be Orochimaru who took him away. Tsunade's mouth was half open, and she swallowed the rest of the words uncomfortably, and then asked, Who told you that Sasuke leaving the village is related to Orochimaru? Sakura Haruno opened her mouth but didn't say anything. She couldn't say that she saw Sasuke and 4 Otogekure ninja leave the village. If she said it, then wouldn't Sasuke betray the village? Tsunade stared at Sakura Haruno, and Hinata also looked at Sakura Haruno. The scene was a little tense for a while. Naruto, who was leaning against the wall, rolled his eyes. This idiot girl. Although Naruto also wanted to know how she knew, Naruto felt that the result would be terrible if she continued to talk. He got up, then put the documents on the desk, and interrupted. Tsunade-ne-san, these are the documents that Grandma Kochan asked me to bring over. She said that you have to read all of them before Tion turns dark today, and then deal with them. The documents fell on the table, and with a bang, a burst of smoke and dust was raised. There was also a lot of ash. Naruto estimated that it should be the old man Mitokado Hamura who got it on the documents. Well, these documents were lucky enough not to be ignited by the ash. What an unreliable old man. Tsunade stared at Naruto's 1-meter-tall document and exclaimed, "So many. Are you trying to kill me?" Naruto shrugged. Grandpa Hamura said that it's all about the reconstruction of Woodleaf and the compensation for the damage of several shops. He said that if it's Princess Tsunade, it'll be a piece of cake. Tsunade's mouth twitched, then she glanced at Sakura Haruno, waved her hand and said, "If there's nothing else, you can go and rest. From tomorrow onwards, there will be a lot of Woodleaf tasks. You may not be so idle." Sakura Haruno looked at Naruto with a complicated expression, then bowed and left. Hinata was a little embarrassed. In the end, she waved her hand at Naruto. After they left, Naruto asked, "Sister Tsunade, when can I make my potion? It's really uncomfortable to have no hair." Tsunade's mouth twitched again and she said bitterly, "Do you really want to kill me?" Then he saw Shizen coming in with Tutu in her arms. He rolled his eyes and smirked. "Why don't you let Shizen make it for you?" Shizen, who was holding Tutu, was about to refute, but then she thought about it, and her eyes suddenly lit up and she agreed. "Okay, I can make this potion too." Would Naruto dare to let Shizen make it? Not even if he was beaten to death. He shook his head like a rattle. "Forget it, I won't trouble Shizen, sister. Actually, there's no hurry. Sister Tsunade can make it for me tomorrow." If he let Shizen make it, what if she made a strange potion that farts in the head? Farts in the head. The scene was too magical, and Naruto shivered. Then Tsunade began to work and Naruto acted as a coolie, helping to serve tea and water. Jiraiya? I don't know where that guy went. Just when Naruto was about to yawn out of boredom, Tsunade suddenly exclaimed, "Damn! This compensation is fake." Naruto leaned over to take a look, and he almost spat out. It was a claim from a ninja store, and the total amount was 100 million. 100 million. What kind of concept is that? An S-level mission is only 1 million. That's 100 S-level missions. The number of S-level missions issued by Woodleaf in a year is less than 10. It was a little more during the war, and it was less than 50 at most. Naruto looked at the name of the store again. "Okay, let's go to the ninja store." He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The store manager's store. Which store manager? Of course, it's the one who went to shoot a movie with his daughter. Haru Sakuratani and Natsuya Sakuragi are really daring. This number isn't written casually, right? That's ridiculous. Even if Sandame Naruto had Alzheimer's, he wouldn't approve it, let alone Tsunade. Naruto, help me sort out the subsidiary documents of this store. I want to see what's lost and why they need to compensate 100 million. Shizen, go and get the documents of this store's purchase order. Naruto swallowed, looked at the catalog number, and then forced himself to pull out the subsidiary documents, which was the list of compensation. This time, the stack of documents was directly reduced by half, and most of these documents were about one thing. The pages of the book flipped, and it was filled with so many orders that it made one's head spin. A minute later, Shizen also took it back. Tsunade began to compare. Huh? This pile of purchase orders is actually related to the last 5 years. Shizen, bring the first 4 years. Then there was a dizzying comparison. Naruto and Shizen helped. The final result was that the purchase orders were all true. Naruto, dig out the field investigation information of this store. Then 2/3 of the remaining half of the documents were suddenly reduced. Regardless of whether this scam was successful or not, Naruto now admired the two girls. With so much information, even if he used the shadow clone jutsu, it would take 3 days and 3 nights to sort it out. Most of this pile of information was photos of the Woodleaf Ninja path, evidence, and interrogation records. The first page was flipped open, and there was a blown-up front. The kind that was emitting black smoke looked quite miserable. The next photo was of a pair of sisters hugging each other and crying. It was called Pear Blossoms in the Rain. Just looking at the photo, one could almost hear the crying. This acting. It's a waste that these two girls didn't go to film with their master. Further behind were the burned remains of the detonation talismans. Half of the talismans had been burned away, and there were tears and dark handprints on them. From this photo, Naruto seemed to be able to see a stack of money burning in the fire, and then a helpless girl throwing herself into the fire to save the money. There were also various chakra test strips, ninja protective clothing, and various scrolls. The price tag of each of them was shockingly high, but after checking, it was confirmed that it was indeed the real price. Of course, the most terrifying thing was the burning banknotes. The banknotes were in the attached documents. After Mute confirmed it, she swallowed and said, "It's real." This was a pain in the ass. The burning banknotes totaled 50 million taels, half of 100 million taels. After spending 3 hours looking through all the information, the three of them couldn't find any suspicious points. Tsunade only felt her head hurt. She kept poking her temple with her hand, as if she wanted to rub herself to death. Woodleaf didn't have a lot of funds. What should I do? She was so desperate. Tsunade closed her eyes and asked, "Besides the 100 million taels compensation, are there any other lawsuits?" Mute confirmed it again, and swallowed her saliva. "That's all. No, there's a note that says Woodleaf is too dangerous. I want to go home." Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Was she going to take the money and leave? Didn't she say that she wanted a large free storefront and half of it to open a bakery? And there seemed to be shares that he wouldn't report. Was she playing hard to get? Taking the initiative to ask Woodleaf to mention the land compensation? What if Woodleaf didn't mention it? Well, such a large compensation would definitely have to be negotiated face to face, and then there would be more negotiations. In other words, this was the real-life version of asking for a sky-high price and sitting on the ground to pay. Amazing, my two sisters. If Haru Sakuratani and Natsuya Sakuragi knew that Naruto had analyzed the plan with only his imagination, they would probably exclaim that their master was amazing. Chapter 169. Let's put aside the 100 million compensation for now. There was no way to deal with it. Then what was even more surprising was that there were 3 more ninja store claims. But they weren't as scary as the first one, and the compensation was only around 1 million ryo. But surprisingly, there were 3 requests to terminate the contract at the same time. What contract? It's the contract to open a store in Woodleaf. Simply put, they wanted to slip away. This wouldn't be the work of those 2 girls. If that was the case, then these 2 girls were really generous. If not, it's a bit too much of a coincidence. Woodleaf has a total of 5 ninja stores. Putting aside the 3 store claims, Tsunade was about to look through the others. She found that there were no more. After half a day, the 4 ninja stores accounted for 80% of all the documents. Tsunade poked her temple and complained, "I'm starting to regret agreeing to Jiraiya's return." Should she report the Sakuratani sisters? Of course not. The money to scam Woodleaf wasn't to scam Tsunade. Although Tsunade had decision-making power as Naruto, it was only decision-making power. Tsunade looked at Shizen for help, then glanced at Naruto. Shizen was stroking Dolphin, and Naruto was stroking his bald head. Tsunade suddenly felt a little itchy and called Naruto, "Naruto, come here." Naruto was actually just scratching his head, but when he heard Tsunade calling him, he came over and asked, "What's the matter?" Tsunade ordered, "Turn around." Then Naruto obediently turned around. Tsunade raised her hand and patted Naruto's head. "Let's get some IQ." Then, She stroked Naruto's head like she was stroking dolphin. Naruto's expression was pained, and his eyes were filled with resentment. Was it really comfortable to touch a bald head? It seems that I've been stroking his head more and more recently. No, I have to let my hair grow back quickly. I can't have this strange habit. Tsunade-san, I have some ideas. Tsunade's hand continued to stroke Naruto's head, and she said lazily, "Speak." Naruto resisted the urge to throw Tsunade over his shoulder and continued, "Woodleaf has a total of 5 ninja shops. If these 4 shops leave, it will be bad for Woodleaf." Tsunade replied, "Yes, no matter what, it's not good to have a monopoly." Naruto continued, "Then let's talk to the 3 families first to understand the reason for leaving Woodleaf. If we can salvage the situation, we can. If we can't, we can only think of a way with the last family." Tsunade's hand stopped. "How do we find a solution on the last house?" Naruto suddenly had an idea of how to stop. Don't tell me I like it when someone rubs my head? The ninja shop has the highest loss. If they don't get compensation, they won't leave easily. So we can use the compensation to keep them in Woodleaf and contain the other ninja shop. Then Woodleaf can take advantage of this time to find other partners. Tsunade's eyes lit up and felt that Naruto's words were a bit interesting. She continued to stroke his head and asked, "How do we keep them in suspense?" Naruto took out a photo of the ruins. This bombed library was hosted by Woodleaf. It's recorded that 90% of the books in it have been burned. It's better to strip the library, then build a store here, and then rent the store to the ninja shop for free. With this, we can reach compensation and let the other party continue to open a store in Woodleaf, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Slap. Tsunade slapped Naruto's head and said in surprise, "This is a good idea. How did you think of it?" This was not comfortable at all. The moment he was slapped, Naruto was shocked. For a moment he wanted to slap back, but he didn't dare, so his expression became more bitter. He turned away from Tsunade's hand and said, "I know the owner of this store. The owner of this store taught me sword making. He's my teacher in sword making, so I don't want him to leave Woodleaf. This method is a win-win solution." Tsunade was surprised. "You know how to make swords?" Naruto nodded and raised his sword. "I also participated in the forging of this sword." Because of his injuries, Naruto didn't use the big hammer on the way back, so Tsunade didn't know that Naruto knew how to make swords. Tsunade picked up the photo and looked at the Sakuragi sisters, and asked curiously, "Then which of these 2 girls is your master?" Naruto replied, "Neither of them, those 2 are just shop assistants. The owner of that store is not in Woodleaf." Tsunade nodded and said in surprise, "So this information was sorted out by the 2 shop assistants?" Naruto was taken aback. He looked at the information and was also surprised. "I'm also a little shocked that they are so capable." Would Tsunade be suspicious because they were too capable? But it didn't matter even if she was suspicious. After all, they just asked for a free store. For Tsunade, this matter was solved perfectly. Just when Naruto was a little worried, Tsunade sighed. It seems that they were really forced out. The loss is so big, these 2 girls are probably scared. Then she picked up another photo and said, "But since it's someone you know, and the owner is your sword-making master, then give him a better store. I think this one is better than that broken library. Naruto, what do you think?" Naruto looked at Tsunade's finger. It was a row of 5 bombed shops. The total area added up is probably the size of 2 libraries. Naruto asked uncertainly, "Tsunade-san, do you mean one of them, or the 5 in the photo?" Tsunade smiled and said, "One is too stingy, how about 5? Naruto licked his lips and glanced at the street number again. Woodleaf was more prosperous, closer to the center, surrounded by 4 main roads. These 5 shops couldn't be any better. "I can't be greedy," Naruto warned himself and said seriously. "It's still too much, 2 is enough." Tsunade looked at Naruto and smiled. "Then I'll add a condition. Let them operate the 3 shops as they wish. Whether they build a big one or do other business separately, it doesn't matter. Let them build a big casino for me and 2 of them." "Casino?" Naruto looked at Tsunade. "This is for personal gain. And it's for personal gain. Compared to her, I'm so weak. She's worthy of being my sensei." But fortunately it's Tsunade who's sitting here. If it's Jiraiya, I'm afraid he'll open a house. No, with Jiraiya's brain he can't think of this. If he can, he will definitely take the initiative to sit in this position. Naruto smiled and said, I think the store manager should agree. Tsunade smiled and said, then I'll leave this matter to you. Naruto was taken aback and pointed to his nose and said, me? Don't tell me I'm exposed. Tsunade walked to Naruto and raised her hand while stroking Naruto's head and said, you're his disciple, right? As far as I know, the inheritance of a swordsmith and a talisman master are very strict and private, and it's rarely passed to outsiders. Since he taught you, it means that he doesn't treat you as an outsider. This sentence is very reasonable. The store manager did not treat him as an outsider. He gave him the whole house and 2 maids. Naruto asked blankly, whose name is the casino? Sister Tsunade's? Tsunade rolled her eyes at Naruto. That's too arrogant. It will cause criticism, so it will be under your name. Naruto blinked again. Under my name? This was also very grand, alright. Moreover, it's a casino. It's very violent. Naruto said uncertainly, will Grandma Kochin and Grandpa Hamura agree? Tsunade smiled and said, if they don't agree, let them pay the 100 million taels. Naruto blinked, took a breath of cold air and praised, brilliant. It's really brilliant. I think Sister Tsunade is born to be a person with great power. You are the princess. Tsunade stroked Naruto's head and praised, it's comfortable to call you princess. If you are tired of calling Sister Tsunade, you can call me Sister Princess. Naruto blinked and said cutely, Sister Princess? Tsunade stroked his head even more happily. Naruto enjoyed it for a while, restrained himself from indulging in the feeling of being stroked, and asked, Sister Princess, it's still early. Shouldn't you prepare the medicine for me? Shizun held Tun Tun on the side, and saw the whole process of abusing power for personal gain. She couldn't help but start to mourn for Woodleaf's tomorrow. Chapter 170. 2 out of the 5 shops would be combined into a ninja equipment store, and the area would be more than twice as large as before. Natsuya Sakuragi wanted to open a pastry shop that was as large as the original ninja equipment store. The 2 shops would be connected to a casino. And according to Naruto's design, the casino would be built on at least 3 floors. The first floor would be a lottery station, the second floor would be entertainment, and the third floor would be a casino. This inspired the Sakuragi sisters, and so the ninja shop would be built on 3 floors as well. The pastry shop's 3 floors would be an exaggeration, and it would be changed into a coffee, pastry, and flower shop. The first floor would be filled with flowers, the third floor would be filled with pastries, and the second floor would be divided into 2 sections with seats for dating and enjoying pastries. Seeing this, Naruto suggested, why don't we connect the second and third floors, and set up a projection system to turn it into a movie theater? And so, there were even more designs for that shop. Haru Sakuratani and Natsuya Sakuragi became busy, and they had Woodleaf to help with the construction. Of course, these 5 shops wouldn't be free forever. These 5 shops would be given to the shop owners in the form of land for a period of 10 years, and the free trial rights would be converted into 50 million ryo in compensation. The remaining 50 million ryo would be settled later, and could be compensated by releasing quests, or by other means, including construction. A week after construction began, Naruto's hair had grown an inch long. This was an amazing growth rate, but what made Naruto despair was that the hair that grew out was colorful. Tsunade, should we continue observing? Naruto's office was filled with despair. Naruto's expression was one of despair. Tsunade pinched Naruto's chin and observed Naruto's hair. After thinking for a long time, she said affirmatively, Naruto, I think it looks pretty good like this. Naruto was about to cry, Tsunade-san, it's fine even if you change the color. But, what's with the colorful hair? Tsunade suppressed her laughter and glanced at Shizun. How could she not tell that Shizun had tampered with her recipe? Shizun turned her head to look at the sky, and she couldn't hide the smile in her eyes. This could be seen from the frequency with which he stroked Tun Tun. His heart was absolutely bursting with joy. Tsunade said seriously, you really don't want the colored one? Naruto's big watery eyes glistened with tears as he shook his head like a rattledrum. Tsunade rubbed Naruto's head for a while and smiled. What color do you want? Change colors? Naruto thought for a moment and said with certainty, just change back to the original color. And so, a week later, Naruto's hair had turned into Jiraiya's white dog fur. Naruto desperately said, Sister Tsunade, my hair was originally yellow, golden yellow. Another week passed, and Naruto's hair turned beige. Coupled with Naruto's snow-white skin, he looked just like Ino's little brother. It was an indescribable feminine beauty. Tsunade asked, You don't like it? Naruto looked at himself in the mirror. He felt like he didn't recognize himself anymore, then he shook his head desperately. Another week passed, and his face turned cherry red. Naruto couldn't help but complain. Is this Sakura's little brother? No, it's her older brother. Then he changed again and his hair stopped growing. In Naruto's office, Naruto said with a haggard face, Sister Tsunade, a week has passed, and my hair hasn't grown at all. Tsunade carefully examined Naruto and said seriously, It seems that the roots of your hair are injured. Naruto asked blankly, Will I never grow hair again? Tsunade said seriously, From my observation, I'm afraid you'll have to learn my creative regeneration technique to repair your cells. Naruto's face was ashen. He asked weakly, How long will it take? Tsunade thought for a moment and replied, Before learning the creative regeneration technique, you'll have to learn the Yin seal first. She pointed to the purple diamond-shaped mark on her forehead and said, That's it. Because if you want to fully activate the creative regeneration technique, you'll need a very large amount of chakra. Chakra? He didn't lack chakra at all. Naruto's eyes lit up and said tentatively, I have a lot of chakra. Can I skip the step of the Yin seal and learn the creative regeneration technique directly? Tsunade shook her head firmly and said, This isn't about having a lot of chakra. The Yin seal is formed by gathering yang chakra. Only yang chakra can make the creative regeneration technique work. So I have to learn it. Then I'll learn it. However, Tsunade said again, If you want to learn the Yin seal, you'll have to learn the sealing technique first, because the Yin seal uses the principles of the sealing technique. If you don't learn it, once you make a mistake, the chakra gathered on your forehead will explode. Naruto's eyes lost their light. He seemed to see his hair waving goodbye to him. At this moment, there was a knock on Naruto's office door. It was Hanatsuki-sensei, followed by a man with tears streaming down his face. When Hanatsuki saw Naruto, she was pleasantly surprised and said, Naruto, you're here. I was looking for you. Our first case was a success. First case? Well, this case was what Naruto's hair was mainly doing this month. It was also the artificial limb project that Chunin told Hanatsuki at the exam venue. It was to install artificial limbs for disabled people. The inspiration came from the puppet jutsu. Therefore, it was only useful for ninjas with chakra. Naruto looked at the man with tears streaming down his face. The man's right hand was made of wood, and it was pieced together like spare parts. When the man saw Naruto looking at him, he couldn't control his tears anymore. His knees went soft and he was about to kneel down. However, Naruto pulled him up with wind release. Don't kneel in front of me. That will make me think that I'm dead. It wasn't a very funny joke, but the man cried and laughed at the same time. I thought that I would never be able to walk like a normal person again. I thought. As he spoke, his tears flowed down, and he couldn't even speak clearly. Naruto looked at the man's left foot. Naruto knew that the foot from the calf was also a prosthetic limb. Tsunade and Shizen also walked over. Tsunade looked at the man's hand. Although it was carved out of wood, every joint was very fine. If there was a layer of fake skin, it would be impossible to tell if it was real or fake. Tsunade said to the man, Open your hand, clench your fist, open your fingers, close your fingers. The man made various movements with his hand while crying. Shizen exclaimed, It's as nimble as a real hand. Naruto said proudly, That's just the standard version. As long as I want to, I can install all kinds of hidden weapons on the official version. When the time comes, it'll be even more nimble than a real hand. Tsunade's eyes lit up after hearing this. If that's the case, then it's not an innovation in the medical field, but a reform in combat ninja equipment. Her voice trembled with excitement. Naruto, do you know what you've done? Naruto laughed and said, a smaller sacrifice, a stronger ninja. Can artificial limbs only be used for disabled people? No. Naruto intends to build an exoskeleton-like armor. When the time comes, humph. Chapter 171. After the success of the first case of artificial limbs, this project was also established in Woodleaf. Then a research group was established. Naruto, as the initiator of the project, was promoted to team leader. Tsunade was the honorary team leader. The deputy team leader was Hana Kazuma, and the team members. Shizen, the others were still waiting to be selected. Of course, while gaining glory, there was naturally jealousy. Naruto was too lazy to care about these in his current state, but with his temper he couldn't bear it for long. Woodleaf Medical Ninja Gathering, Tsunade hadn't come yet, so everyone was waiting. Naruto said to Shizen beside him, Shizen-ne-san, where is Tsunade-san? Since the fart candy incident, Shizen didn't like Naruto very much. But later, she got back at him about his hair, and her anger was almost vented. Now that Naruto was very successful in medical ninjutsu, the two could communicate normally. But it was limited to normal communication. Shizen hugged Tutu as usual and replied. She went to the cemetery. Naturally, she went to the cemetery to visit her dead ex-boyfriend and brother Nawaki. Since Tsunade returned to the village, she went there almost every day. Naruto nodded. In fact, there was a question that had been bothering Naruto. That is, what happened 7 days after he fainted? Why did Tsunade obediently return to Woodleaf as Naruto? According to the development of the original world, Tsunade didn't want to at first, and she was very disgusted. Naruto asked this question to Jiraiya, but he didn't get anything out of it. He also asked Ninetales. Ninetales said that after Naruto fainted, it didn't know what happened outside. While he was thinking, Tsunade came back. Naruto subconsciously looked at the time. It was completely on time. It was worth learning. The meeting began. Today's meeting was mainly about the newly established Artificial Limbs project. It was a bit like a product launch. First, the artificial limbs were introduced, followed by questions. The speaker was Dr. Naruto, the person in charge of the project. After introducing the functions and application prospects of the prosthetic limb, someone raised his hand and asked, "Excuse me, you said that the prosthetic limb was inspired by Sanin's puppetry, but as far as I know, inspiration alone is not enough. The reason why Sanin's puppets can be controlled so flexibly is not only because they can use the special chakra wire, but also because the material of the puppet itself is very particular. How did you solve these two problems?" The person who asked the question was very respectful. Medical ninja was a profession that prioritized those who reached the top. It was rare for them to determine their prestige based on their age, which was something that Naruto liked very much. Therefore he replied generously, "These 2 points can't be separated from Sanin's outstanding contribution to Woodleaf." Of course, this contribution wasn't voluntary, nor was it requested. I'm sure everyone knows about the Chunin exam not long ago. I was one of the participants. Well, in the end I failed. Some humorous self-deprecation made a few friendly laughs. Then Naruto shrugged his shoulders and continued, "But although I didn't succeed in being promoted to Chunin in the exam, I passed the medical ninja assessment this morning, and was promoted to Chunin. And compared to a normal Chunin, the benefits are better." The people below laughed again. Shizen rolled her eyes and muttered, "It's all nonsense." Tsunade next to her was very appreciative and whispered to Shizen, "Although it's indeed nonsense, Naruto successfully aroused everyone's interest, livened up the atmosphere of the meeting, and also closed the gap. Even I can't do this, so you have to learn from him." Shizen was still unhappy. He just likes to play tricks. Besides, if Tsunade-sama stands in front, who dares to not listen? Tsunade replied, "I'm famous because I'm one of the Sannin and have a reputation in medical ninjutsu." Naruto didn't have anything before, but now the effect of his words is very close to mine, so, you still have to learn from him. Shizen rolled her eyes. In fact, she also felt Naruto's power, but it would be embarrassing to say it out loud. On the podium, Naruto summoned a puppet, the crow, that he snatched from Kankuro, and formally explained, "Thanks to Chunon's exam, I got a good little guy from Sanon's hands. First, let's talk about the chakra line that operates the puppet. That's the secret of puppeteers. I don't know, but I tried the chakra line of medical ninjutsu, and the effect was very poor, and I couldn't control the puppet from a distance." After saying that, Naruto demonstrated. He raised his right hand, and a chakra line connected to the crow puppet. Then the crow began to move. A meter away, there was a sudden silence. If Chunon's promotion through the medical ninjutsu narrowed the distance between them, then now it's a real show of skill. Chakra line is an advanced skill of medical ninjutsu. Everyone present is a professional. How can they not see that Naruto's use of chakra line is already very superb? At least more than half of the people here can't complete Naruto's operation. Then the puppet began to move forward, and it moved another meter away. At this moment, even Shizen's eyes widened and she lost her voice. Is he abnormal? Then when the crow walked 3 meters away, it finally fell to the ground softly. Applause rang out in the venue. It was so loud that it seemed as if it wanted to clap the hands off. It was very imposing. Then Naruto waved his hand, and the puppet quickly returned to Naruto's hand. Shizen's eyelids twitched. She had a feeling that 3 meters was definitely not the limit of Naruto's control. After memorizing the plant dictionary, Shizen's understanding of Naruto was once again refreshed, from 2 words abnormal to 3 words big abnormal. Tsunade's eyes couldn't help but light up, because she just succeeded Naruto. She didn't have time to teach Naruto anything. Therefore, many aspects of Naruto are still very vague. She muttered, "It seems that it's time to explore the bottom of this little guy. Such a good talent must be cultivated quickly. It will be wasted if it's too long." The puppet was held in Naruto's hand, and the joints on its body began to make various movements flexibly. At the same time, he explained, "Although the medical ninja's chakra thread can't be controlled remotely, it's very convenient to control it from a distance. The prosthetic limb can be controlled flexibly, mainly because the medical ninja connects the injured body with the chakra thread. It's known that the medical ninja's chakra thread can be used to suture the wound of the injured. One is the caster's chakra thread, and the other is the patient's chakra thread. In this way, after the medical ninja cancels the transmission of the chakra thread, the patient's chakra thread will continue to maintain the chakra thread." The second problem is the selection of materials. This is thanks to this little puppet. Everyone can see that the puppet's left arm is missing because I decomposed it. A kind of metal was smelted from it. Because of confidentiality reasons, I won't say what kind of metal it is. In short, the 2 difficulties are perfectly solved with Sanon's contribution. The applause sounded again. Then someone asked, "Then can I ask how you decompose the material?" Sanon's puppet, Wood Leaf, has been studying it for a long time, but there has been no substantial progress. This question was a bit confidential. Naruto smiled and said, "Because in addition to being a medical ninja, I'm also half a swordsmith. I decomposed it with a sledgehammer." Swordsmith? The little guy in front of them is also a swordsmith? Can he be more amazing? After the amazement, a discordant voice suddenly sounded from below. The village has always been blank in the field of swordsmithing. As Naruto's disciple, you will give this technology to the village, right? Which idiot asked such a question? Everyone looked at the source of the voice. Tsunade was also curious about the cute guy who asked such a brainless question. Either his love for Wood Leaf was too deep, or he lost his mind. Naruto also looked over and recognized that this guy was the one who was clapping just now, but he didn't. Then Naruto decided to do something. Topics like moral coercion were not difficult for him. Naruto asked seriously, "Do you have a wife?" The man was a little uncomfortable with everyone looking at him, and he also realized that his question was a bit inappropriate. Hearing Naruto's question, he subconsciously replied, "Yes." Then Naruto continued to ask, "Is she that beautiful?" The man raised his eyebrows and replied, "Yes." Then Naruto asked again, "Then do you have a daughter?" The man's eyebrows furrowed deeper, but he still replied, "Yes." Naruto repeated, "Is your daughter beautiful?" The man was a little impatient, and his veins were twitching, but he didn't dare to go too far with so many people looking at him. He replied, "Yes." Naruto smiled and said, "Then can you lend your wife and daughter to everyone here to play with?" Tsunade and Shizen burst out laughing. The other women glared at the little guy on the stage, but they weren't very hostile. There was a hint of warning and blame, and it was very intimate. It was like an elder sister scolding a younger brother, who didn't know what to say. And all the men, some choked on their saliva and coughed, and some had already begun to imagine. Chapter 172. After the medical ninja meeting ended, Naruto, Tsunade, Shizen, and Kazama Hanatsuki left first. Everyone stood up and saluted. After Naruto left, many people patted the shoulder of the person who was looking for trouble and said with a smirk, "Brother, for the sake of being colleagues for so many years, can you lend me your wife?" The man's face turned green. Then another person came over. "I don't want the one you've used, just lend me your daughter." The man finally couldn't help it and shouted angrily, "Get out!" The crowd dispersed, and the boat of friendship capsized. If there was a reason, it would be that he angered Tsunade's disciple. In these people's eyes, this guy's future was already gone. If he stayed with this kind of person, he would only be implicated. So instead of lamenting that society was too realistic, it was better to lament that he was too stupid. Someone gossiped as they walked. "His wife seems to be Sannin, right? No wonder he's fighting for Sannin." Someone next to him complained, "I've heard that if you have a stepmother, you will have a stepfather, but I've never heard that if you marry a wife from another country, you'll side with outsiders?" Someone next to him complained, "They say that girls are extroverted. Could it be, his attributes are actually that of a girl?" The female doctor couldn't stand it. "How did us girls offend you?" The man quickly replied, "It's a good thing for women to be extroverted, really." The female doctor rolled her eyes and asked, "Little Naruto, you're almost 40, right?" The man froze for a moment. Naruto was his nickname, then nodded. The female doctor mocked, "Serves you right for being single until now." The medical ninja called Naruto almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. After everyone left, the medical ninja stood in place for a long time, his eyes red, and cursed, "What the hell? Damn little Baldy, if I get rich, I'll kill you." A cold wind suddenly blew, and silently, a long sword was placed across the man's throat. Jealousy can make people ugly, but even if you're jealous, you shouldn't show it so obviously. Are you retarded? Or is there something wrong with your head? Naruto's mouth spat out cold air, and that person's left ear was immediately frozen into ice. By the time he came to his senses, his body was already trembling like a sieve due to fear. Especially his left ear that had lost all feeling and the sword that was pressed against his throat. He said in disbelief, You don't scare me. This is Wood Leaf. Even if you are Naruto's disciple, you wouldn't dare to kill me." The green sleeve sword slid slightly. The green sleeve sword that could even cut steel into tofu easily cut a wound that was neither long nor short, neither deep nor shallow, on that person's neck. Dark red blood began to flow out, but it did not cut into the artery, so the blood did not spurt out and flowed very slowly. That person's body trembled, and as his wound came into contact with the green sleeve sword, his blood flowed even faster. Feeling the blood begin to flow down from his skin, the last bit of courage left was swallowed up by fear, and he cried and begged for mercy. "Don't kill me, I was wrong, please don't kill me," Naruto said calmly. "Of course I won't kill you, you're right. Even if I'm Naruto's disciple, I wouldn't dare to kill you easily. I just came back to remind you that I'm very dangerous. You have to respect me, otherwise." The green sleeve sword swung. Dang! That was the sound of the frozen ear falling on the table. "Even if I don't kill you, it's not a big deal to lose an ear or an arm." The green sleeve sword returned to its scabbard. There was no trace of blood on the sword. It was very clean. Naruto turned and left, waving goodbye. "You're also a medical ninja, right? It's not difficult to sew your ear back. Just be careful of the cold air on it." Naruto left. That medical ninja cried bitterly and grabbed his ear, but the next moment, his hand was frozen on his ear. He began to ask for help in horror. Naruto returned to Tsunade's side, Tsunade rolled her eyes and motioned to the screams upstairs. You did it? Naruto smiled and said, I didn't do anything excessive, I just cut off his ear. Don't worry, I helped to refrigerate it before cutting it off. If it's handled properly, it's no different from before. Cut it off and refrigerated it? Next to them, Shizen's mouth twitched, and she screamed in her heart. That's a human ear. Do you think it's a pig's ear? Tsunade sighed and said, Can't you change your vengeful temper? Didn't that person show a little dissatisfaction because of jealousy? Just break a few bones. Do you have to cut off the ear? Go put that person's ear back. Wood Leaf Medical Ninja can only use these 30 or so ears. Naruto said awkwardly, I'll go. I just said some harsh words. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if I go back now? Besides, even if his ear can't be put back, I can put a fake ear. Don't worry, it's guaranteed to be the same as the real one. He said and winked cutely. Shizen's little face turned black like a coal ball when she heard this sentence. She subconsciously touched her ear. Very good, the ear is still there, and it's original. She thought to herself, it's better not to provoke Naruto in the future. What if one day this kid's head went crazy and he dislocated his ear and then compensated with a fake one? That scene is really too cruel. Tsunade glared at Naruto and said to Shizen, Shizen, go and take a look. If it was in the past, Shizen wouldn't clean up Naruto's mess, but today she felt a little cold standing next to Naruto. Especially that bald guy, most of the credit was because of her. So she agreed and quickly left with Tough, whose ears were also cold. Tough thought of the fart he let out. Are the pig ears still there? Tough fanned a pair of fat pig ears and confirmed. Yep, they're still there. After Shizen went upstairs again, Tsunade said to Hana Fujita, Is there anyone in the new Wood Leaf generation who is more talented in medical ninjutsu worth training? Hana Fujita pointed at Naruto. This one. Naruto smiled proudly. Tsunade rolled her eyes. Of course she knew this. Other than this one? Hana Fujita thought seriously, and then shook her head. No, the others are too bad. Tsunade. How bad? Hana Fujita thought seriously and said with certainty. So bad that it's impossible to compare. Tsunade pointed at Naruto and said to Hana Fujita, The comparison you're talking about, is with him? Hana Fujita said naturally, yes. Naruto secretly gave Hana Fujita a thumbs up. Hana Fujita returned one to him. This scene naturally didn't escape Tsunade's sight, and she couldn't help but roll her eyes again. At this time Naruto said, There are still some who are not bad. Hana-sensei's requirements are too high. Too high was a fact and Tsunade knew it. But when this sentence was finally said by Naruto, it tasted strange, and that smug, narcissistic stinging to the eyes. Naruto continued, Sakura Haruno's talent in medical ninjutsu is not bad. Although the other female ninjas in the other teams are not as good as Sakura Haruno, they should be able to respond to emergencies in the team after some training. Finally, he added, Sakura Haruno is the pink-haired girl who went to the office to look for you that day. Tsunade raised her eyebrows. The one because of Sasuke? Naruto nodded. Yes, that's the one. Chapter 173. When Tsunade heard Naruto's recommendation, she subconsciously asked, How's that compared to you? Then she shook her head. Alright, pretend I didn't ask. Naruto and Hana exchanged a smile. The two of them gave each other a thumbs up and smiled mischievously. At this moment, Shizen's roar came from upstairs. Naruto! You bastard, come up here. The three of them looked at each other and rushed upstairs at the same time. Tsunade couldn't help but ask, Are you sure it's just an ear? Shizen's voice makes me feel like I found a corpse. Hana also looked at Naruto. Naruto complained, Can a corpse cry for help? That's indeed impossible. When they returned to the conference room, the three of them saw a very funny scene, but they couldn't laugh. Shizen's hand, and that man's hand were frozen on his ear. Shizen shouted at Naruto, Naruto! You did it on purpose. Naruto expressed his innocence and couldn't help but complain. Are you retarded? You obviously saw that man's hand was frozen on his ear, so why didn't you wrap your hand with chakra first? Shizen wanted to say that she already wrapped his hand with chakra, But she was afraid of hurting his organs, so she didn't rap too much. But now wasn't the time to think about this, so she urged, "Don't just stand there and make sarcastic remarks. Hurry up and get rid of your cold." Naruto was about to walk over when he noticed that Tsunade's body was trembling. Her face was pale, and she looked terrified. And Tsunade's line of sight was the blood on that man's body. Hemophobia. Tsunade's hemophobia hasn't recovered yet? Naruto used his body to block Tsunade's line of sight. At this time, Hana also noticed that something was wrong with Tsunade and asked worriedly, "Naruto-sama, what's going on?" Naruto picked up Tsunade and brought her to the empty room next door. Hana followed behind and wanted to ask more, but Naruto waved his hand and shut up. Tsunade took a few deep breaths and calmed down a lot. "No, don't worry about me first." Before Tsunade could finish, Naruto nodded and said, "I'll go now." He then said to Hana Fujin, "Take care of them for a while. I'll be back soon." Returning to the previous room, Naruto raised his hand and knocked the man unconscious. Then he controlled the ice element chakra to dissipate. Only then did Mute's hand leave her ear. If he muted Chakra's voice, he would be able to break free, but that would definitely hurt this guy's ears. Naruto placed the ear of the Tao integration stage cultivator. Chakra's scalpel sliced off a thin layer of necrotic cells before placing the ear back together. Chakra's needle sewed the ear back together in a few strokes. "Does Tsunade, Nasen, have hemophobia?" Naruto asked while treating her. Mute hesitated for a moment before nodding. "N." Although she wanted to keep it a secret, she couldn't keep it a secret for long. Naruto continued. "I forgot where I read that hemophobia is a type of psychological illness. If you want to treat it, apart from removing the knot in your heart, you can also use the exposure method. That is, use blood to stimulate the senses, get used to it, and finally use willpower to overcome the psychological barrier." Mute was pleasantly surprised. "Where did you read that?" She paused for a moment, then remembered that Naruto said he forgot, so she changed her question. "Can you find that book?" Naruto said half-heartedly. "In the library, but the library has already been burned down." There was such a book? There was indeed such a book, but it wasn't in this world. When they returned to Tsunade's side again, Tsunade's condition was much better. She could now speak normally. She was just a little depressed. Hana Fujin guessed a little, but she wisely didn't ask any more questions. Then, under Tsunade's insistence, they went to the special sanatorium according to the original plan. Naruto had already received the information about the sanatorium situation. The number of disabled people was 57, 35 ninjas, and 22 civilians. Apart from being disabled, 18 of them had different degrees of disfigurement on their faces. Of the 18 people, 5 were ninjas and 13 were civilians. In the director's office of the special sanatorium, Hana Fujin sighed. "It's a pity that the artificial limbs are useless for the other 22 civilians." Naruto replied, "There's no rush. Who knows, maybe we'll be able to develop artificial limbs that can move without chakra in the future." Hana Fujin rolled her eyes. "How can they move without chakra?" Naruto chuckled. "Don't we still have electricity?" But when it came to electronic machinery, Naruto didn't know shit about it. If they wanted to develop artificial limbs that could be powered by electricity, Naruto wouldn't be able to do it. Unless he transmigrated back and took a few more doctorates before coming back. He would have to bring his current memories back. Naruto's memories from the past were too horrible to look at. His CET for English was so bad that he almost killed himself. While they were chatting, Kodo knocked on the door and walked in. He stood up straight like a soldier who was being inspected. Moreover, he was in high spirits. "What's the result?" Naruto asked, but from the excited expression on Kodo's face, Naruto more or less knew the answer. "Kodo. Only 3 people are unwilling to accept the artificial limbs. The other 32 people expressed their willingness to continue working for Woodleaf." "Willing to work for Woodleaf?" Naruto asked back. "What did you say?" "I didn't say anything about continuing to work for Woodleaf. I just asked if they were willing to accept the artificial limbs and get out of this damned place. You can start again. Forget it, take me there." Kodo was stunned. He stammered. Didn't you say you want to modify them to be able to fight? Naruto rolled his eyes and replied, I'm just talking about the future. Who asked you to go out and fight? Besides, who knows how many years you've been cooped up here? Do you still have any fighting power? This sentence wasn't meant to be sarcastic, but it was the truth. Kodo's back instantly bowed. He was a little regretful. If he knew that there would be a day when he could go out and live like a normal person, he wouldn't have wasted so many years. Then he thought about it and reminded, those people have a bit of a temper. Naruto said indifferently, I like to cure people with a bad temper. Why? In Naruto's view, most people with bad tempers were asking for a beating. Of course, the premise was that he could beat others. After Naruto and Kodo left, Hana Fujita asked Tsunade, You didn't give them the artificial limbs to fight? Tsunade replied in Naruto's words, Do they still have any fighting power? Hana Fujita choked. In Hana Fujita's view, even fighting was better than being isolated from the world. This was why she supported Naruto's plan. If they knew that they were really going out to live like ordinary people, of course it would be better. The new generation of Naruto was a good person, and Naruto was also a good person. After the 2 good person cards were sent out, Hana Fujita was worried again. She wanted to say something but hesitated. Then can they integrate into the ordinary people when they go out? Tsunade smiled confidently. If this question was asked a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer it, but I can say with certainty now that they will integrate. Where did the confidence come from? This was thanks to Naruto. Naruto had a property under his name, and this property was lacking people. To be precise, it was 3 properties. The ninja store's land was more than twice as large as before, and it was built on 3 floors. There was definitely a shortage of people. There was also a 3-floor movie-themed pastry shop, plus a 3-floor luxury casino. 35 people might not even be enough. Naruto and Kodo walked into the depths of the nursing home, and into a large garden. The person inside heard the footsteps of the 2 and said impatiently, I already said that I don't want to accept that bullshit artificial limb. If you don't know what's good for you and bother me, I'll kill you. A woman? Well, a very, very beautiful woman. Wearing a white dress, golden curly hair with a large bow, and a snow-white round sun hat. It was just that this woman was sitting in a wheelchair. But even if she was sitting in a wheelchair, Naruto could feel a strong sense of danger from her. This feeling came from Chakra's restless body and a murderous gaze. Naruto suddenly wondered who would hit who if he got angry, so it was better not to get angry. So he suddenly put on a sweet smile on his face and said sweetly, Sister, don't be angry, I just wanted to visit sister. Guting had originally walked in with his head held high and his body full of killing intent. Naruto's sudden change made him feel awkward. His head turned 100 degrees as if it was clockwork, and he turned to look at Naruto. Naruto smiled. Kodo's heart flashed 2 words at this smile, so cheap. Chapter 174. Naruto's sudden change in expression caught the people inside off guard. And when they saw that it was still a little guy, the fierceness in their eyes faded. But their tone was still indifferent. Who are you? If it was that stupid Jiraiya, he would definitely shout, That's a good question. And then give a long list of names that would make everyone stunned. Naruto didn't think that he was that stupid, so he simply said, My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I invented that prosthetic limb. But there's a misunderstanding. I want to make it clear in advance. The prosthetic limb is not for you to go out and continue to fight. It's just for the convenience of your life. The woman stared at Naruto's eyes for a while, and seeing that his expression didn't seem to be fake, she nodded. Oh, that's the case. It's good that you don't continue to go out and fight for those scum. But I'm not interested in the prosthetic limb you developed. You can go. Naruto nodded and turned to leave. At this moment, if she could, Kodo would definitely despise Naruto. He came in a hurry and left in a hurry, without bringing a fart. But just as he was about to step out of the garden's iron gate, the girl hiding in the flowers suddenly said, Wait, I'm very interested in that prosthetic limb of yours. The woman in the wheelchair shouted, Little Gunny. Then another one jumped down from the tree. I'm also very interested. The woman in the wheelchair complained, Why is Big Gunny also joining in the fun? After saying that, she said sadly, "You don't want me anymore." Then she started to cry. This time, it was Naruto's turn to turn around like a clockwork. 3 girls. The one who jumped out of the flowers was shorter than Naruto, wearing a light yellow dress, and looked like a little loli. She only had 1 arm and 1 leg. The body of the person who jumped down from the tree was similar to Kazama Hana, with slender legs but no arms. The 3 of them had the same hair color, as if they were 3 sisters. However, other than the one in the wheelchair, the other 2 had short hair. A person with a pair of slender legs walked past the wheelchair, ignoring the sobbing of the person in the wheelchair. She said coldly, "Put away your cheap tears. This is the 38th time today. I've heard it so many times that my ears are going to grow calluses." 38 times? Naruto looked at the person in the wheelchair in amazement. Women were indeed made of water. However, Naruto was more concerned about the fact that he had admitted defeat in front of this woman who had cried 38 times in one day. How embarrassing. He really wanted to crawl into a crack in the ground on the other side. The little loli hopped over on 1 leg. She was a little cute, but no matter who saw her, they couldn't laugh. You would only feel heartache. With only 1 hand and 1 leg, her life must be very difficult. The woman with long legs was the first to approach Naruto. She said, "Is what you said true? You won't let us fight if we accept your artificial limb?" Naruto promised, "No, I can guarantee that. As long as you don't want to fight, no one will force you." The little loli hopped over with difficulty. She pulled on Gutung's artificial limb and looked at it. She said enviously, "It's so convenient. If I can put it on, I can climb trees like Big Gunny." Then she stared at Gutung with watery eyes and said, "Big brother, can you give me your hand?" Seeing that Gutung was about to agree, Naruto spoke in time. "His hand is too ugly. I will make a beautiful pair of hands and feet for you according to your hand." The little loli's eyes lit up. "Really?" Naruto promised, "Really?" At this moment, the person in the wheelchair couldn't take it anymore. What's the use of having hands and feet? It's better to sit comfortably. However, her words were ignored by everyone present. Naruto began to measure the little girl's hands and feet. It was very simple. All he needed to do was to use ice to make a copy of the little girl's original hands and feet. The little girl said shyly, "Do I have to take off my pants?" Naruto blushed, which was rare for him. He quickly said, "No, no." Then the little girl obediently said, "Oh." After measuring the little girl, a frozen hand and leg appeared in Naruto's hands. The little girl wanted to touch them, but Naruto avoided her. "They're very cold. You can play with them after I make the finished product." The little girl obediently said, "Oh." Then it was Big Gunny's turn. What should I do if I don't have hands?" Naruto asked. "Does your opponent have any special requests? If not, I'll make a set of hands and feet according to your body proportions." Big Gunny used his chin to point at the person in the wheelchair. "My hands are the same as hers, so you can just do as she says." Hearing Big Gunny's words, the person in the wheelchair instantly put his hands behind his back and said angrily, "I won't let you see my hands. You won't want me after you have hands and feet. I know that." He had just admitted defeat to this woman. "How embarrassing," Naruto replied coldly, "Sorry, I saw it just now." As he said that, a pair of arms grew out of thin air from his palms to his shoulders. The girl in the wheelchair stared at the hands that condensed in the air, and compared them to her own. She said unreasonably, "You little pervert. You little pervert who doesn't learn well. Who told you to look at my hands?" Naruto's eyelids twitched. Then he bade farewell to the other 2 people. "The arms will be done tomorrow. I'll come back then." The person in the wheelchair couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "Where's mine?" "There's still me." Then, a pair of slender legs carved out of ice appeared in the sky. They were made according to Big Gunny's legs. In fact, Big Gunny's body proportions were exactly the same as the person in the wheelchair. Even the shape of his face was very similar. When the person in the wheelchair saw that there was another pair of legs, she wasn't happy and continued to shout, "You pervert! Do your eyes have X-ray vision? You actually shamelessly peeked at Big Gunny's beautiful legs. The veins on Naruto's forehead throbbed. This woman was the noisiest and most unreasonable person he had ever seen. After leaving the garden, Gutung said with admiration, "You actually managed to convince them. You turned around and left just now to play hard to get, right?" Naruto curled his lips. "You're overthinking it. I was really planning to leave." Gutung said in disbelief. "If you were really planning to leave, why did you come back?" Naruto looked at Gutung as if he was looking at an idiot. "Because someone else needed it." Gutung thought about it carefully. Naruto sighed in his heart. There was one less person he could use. This Gutung was obviously a one-track mind. What kind of work could a one-track mind give him? Leave him in the casino to maintain order for fear of fighting with the customers. Leave him in Xia's pastry shop. Wrong style. I'll leave him in the store manager's place. Naruto suddenly thought that a one-track mind could be responsible for collecting money. And it just so happened that the ninja store didn't have any bargaining. Perfect. Naruto returned. Tsunade looked at the legs and arms floating around Naruto, and her eyes lit up. "They're all beautiful women, aren't they?" Naruto nodded, but then said with some uncertainty, "I guess so." Why was he uncertain? Because Naruto felt that the person in the wheelchair was very annoying. Calling her a beautiful woman would be an insult to the sacred and dignified word of beauty. If I'm going to give her a job, I'll just let her stay in the sanatorium. Why did Naruto resent this person so much? Naruto felt that his whole life's wisdom was ruined in the hands of this girl. He actually felt that this woman who cried 38 times a day was dangerous. He actually acted cute in front of a woman who cried 38 times a day. Shameful. Chapter 175. Woodleaf's night was relatively quiet. In this village of ninjas, everyone seemed to be infected with some ninja's self-discipline. When it was time, they would choose to sleep. However, there were still people who were busy. In a villa near Naruto's building, the lights in the second-floor bedroom were on. This was Tsunade's new home. It couldn't be helped. The previous house had been destroyed by Woodleaf's several times of unrest. Fortunately, Tsunade was quite carefree about this. If the old didn't go, the new wouldn't come. Coupled with the fact that the past always brought back some bad memories of the past, it actually made people feel a lot more relaxed. Tsunade sat on the bed holding a thick scroll and reading it. If Naruto was here, he would recognize this scroll as he had also read it once. Because this was the scroll of the forbidden technique. Where the scroll was unfolded, there was a complicated talisman array. If one didn't have some understanding of formations, they would feel dizzy just by looking at it. There was a note on the talisman array, which was also a brief introduction, and above it was the name of this technique. Edo Tensei. Tsunade looked at it seriously, frowning slightly, and even a little nervous. Suddenly, Tsunade's ears twitched like a frightened cat. She pressed her hand on the scroll, and the scroll quickly rolled up. And in the blink of an eye, it disappeared from the bed with a bang. 2 seconds later, a figure appeared on the window. The person knocked on the window and shouted, "Open the window." Tsunade took a deep breath and calmed her nervous mood. Then she walked to the window, opened it, and kicked out, shooting the person on the window. Then she closed the window and walked out of the main door 2 minutes later. She put her hands on her waist and scolded the person on the ground who was hugging his crotch. "Can't you use the main door?" Jiraiya trembled, and his body was already bent like a shrimp. He whimpered, "Egg, egg, egg, egg." 5 minutes later, the two came to a tavern, but Jiraiya's walking posture was a bit strange. Holding his crotch, there weren't many people in the tavern, so the two found a quiet place to sit down, ordered 2 bottles of sake, and ordered some dishes. After a few glasses of wine, Jiraiya said, "I didn't expect you to get more and more beautiful." Tsunade drank the wine and replied, "You're still the same, but I'm not interested in you." Jiraiya rolled his eyes and said, "Humph, same to you." Then he filled it with wine and downed a few more cups. Jiraiya looked at the wine in the glass and whispered, "I found out what you asked me to check. The 3 ninja stores that left do have some connection with that one. It can even be said that they are opened by the same person." Tsunade drank a cup and replied, "What about the identity of that person?" Jiraiya shook his head slightly. I didn't find anything. Tsunade continued. What about the two girls? Jiraiya shook his head again. I didn't find anything. After a pause he continued. They came from the outside. I've decided to leave with Leaf tomorrow and go out to investigate. I'll also look for information on that organization. Tsunade's hand that was twisting the glass slightly paused and asked, how long will it take? Jiraiya wasn't sure. At least a few months, but if I haven't found anything in 3 months, I'll come back. Tsunade nodded. That's good, we can still make it in time for the opening. Speaking of opening, Jiraiya rolled his eyes and said, you're still messing around. Opening a casino in Woodleaf, only you can do this kind of thing. Tsunade said indifferently. What are you afraid of? When Grandpa was here, there were several casinos in Woodleaf. Tsunade's grandpa was naturally the first Dame Naruto. Jiraiya curled his lips when he talked about him. Legend has it that he was a bigger fat sheep than Tsunade. The people who opened casinos took the initiative to open their casinos in Woodleaf. The two drank several cups of wine, and didn't know how many cups they drank. Jiraiya said drunkenly, after I leave, I'll leave Naruto to you. Tsunade replied drunkenly, he's my apprentice. Perhaps the alcohol was too strong. Jiraiya rolled his eyes like a sloth. At the same time, in the store manager's house, Naruto was working on some small parts throughout the night. It had a pair of long wooden legs, a pair of slender arms, and a single leg and an arm. These were just the shell. Naruto was installing parts inside, which was the tissue that transported chakra to drive the shell. The door was knocked lightly, and Xia came in with dessert and hot milk in her hand. Naruto carefully took a part with tweezers and installed it inside. Obviously, it was a critical moment now. He said softly, is it Xia? Go to sleep, don't worry about me. Xia gently put the dessert and hot milk on the table and whispered back, Master should also go to bed early. Naruto finally put the small part in the buckle, breathed a sigh of relief, and looked up with a smile. Well, the assembly will be finished soon. Then he saw Xia looking at him expectantly. Naruto asked curiously, what's wrong? What's the matter? Xia bit her lip, blinked her eyes, and looked at Naruto's head. Although Xia knows it's rude, but Xia really wants to touch Master's head. Naruto's face darkened and said indifferently, that's impossible, you should go out and rest early. Xia bit her lip and said, just for a while. Otherwise, Xia can't sleep. Naruto felt his liver hurt. Although he knew that he didn't have much authority as the nominal master, but what kind of request was touching the head? Just as he was about to refuse, the fragrance of the hot milk rushed into his nose. Naruto looked over. Under the light, the hot air floated up slowly, looking very comfortable. Naruto looked at Xia with narrowed eyes. Can't I change the request? For example, give you some small things like this? Naruto raised a wooden arm in his hand. Xia pouted and shook her head pitifully. Naruto sighed, lowered his head and closed his eyes. Just for a while, and you're not allowed to tell your sister. Xia's eyes lit up, and she flew over to hug Naruto's head and rubbed it. Naruto roared. Just for a while. Xia replied. Xia's hand didn't leave just for a while. Then there was crazy rubbing. For some reason, Naruto's heart. Rubbing on the smooth head, rubbing. What F** king accompaniment? F** king accompaniment. Naruto didn't know how many times they rubbed against each other. After Xiaji left, Naruto felt that his head was warm. It seemed quite comfortable. No, this thought is too dangerous. Looks like I have to hurry up and let my hair grow out. Naruto began to install the mechanical part seriously, but his mind was thinking of Rolling Thunder and the panda family living under the banyan tree in the forest of death. I really want to rub the bear. It was so fun to be furry and plump. And Mother Bear's big belly. Lying on it, no matter how good the bed is, it can't compare. When Naruto was immersed in his imagination, a pink mushroom on the windowsill moved. And then with the small flower pot under it, it hugged. It moved behind the curtain, and then seemed to stretch and didn't move, as if it had fallen asleep. The mushroom made a sound and Naruto looked up. Seeing that it was the mushroom, he ignored it and continued to install the parts. The mushroom was sleepy, so he should finish quickly and sleep. Chapter 176. The next morning, Naruto arrived at the hospital yawning. Yesterday, he didn't get to sleep again. Because there was a problem with a part, he went to the suburbs to forge another one in the middle of the night. Morning, Naruto. Hanatsuki was a little surprised to see Naruto come so early today. Normally, Naruto wouldn't be seen until 8 o'clock. Morning. Naruto threw a scroll over and complained. I haven't slept yet. These are the prosthetic limbs of the 3 girls. Go put them on for them. I'm going to the office to catch up on some sleep. Naruto yawned and walked to his office. Hanatsuki held the scroll and smiled sweetly at Naruto's back. She quietly followed him. After Naruto closed the door, she helped him flip over the sign hanging on the door. The sign said, "Do not disturb." Then she left the hospital with the scroll. When Naruto woke up, it was already afternoon. In fact, he felt that he could still sleep until nighttime, but Tsunade came looking for him. What's the matter, Tsunade-san? Tsunade glared at him and said unhappily, You seem to have forgotten that I'm still your master. When are you going to start accepting my training? When Naruto heard that it was about training, he immediately became spirited and laughed. How could I forget? Didn't I see that Tsunade-san was too busy a while ago? Tsunade raised her eyebrows. Don't give me that. Do you have time tomorrow? Naruto was about to answer when he suddenly remembered that there were still 32 people whose prosthetic limbs hadn't been completed. Yesterday, 3 had already made him busy for most of the day. 32 people would take at least a week. Naruto looked up and was about to say something when he saw Tsunade looking at him with disdain. That look was nothing more than asking if she was busy or if he was busy. Waiting for me? Funny. Naruto smiled awkwardly and scratched his head. Tsunade said, Your business is also serious, so I won't say much. But you have to arrange your own time. From tomorrow onwards you have to report to me from 1 to 8 p.m. every day. I'll teach you some basic knowledge about sealing techniques. When you're able to learn by yourself, I'll transfer you to a sealing class for a while. Sealing jutsu and medical ninjutsu are inextricably linked. Learning it will be very helpful for you. Learn sealing techniques? This was to prepare for learning the Yin seal. After learning the Yin seal, he would be able to learn the Baihao technique. Then he would be able to grow his hair. Naruto naturally liked this kind of learning plan. He immediately replied, Okay, it's all up to Sister Tsunade. Tsunade nodded with satisfaction, then suddenly thought of something. By the way, Jiraiya said that you learned a very dangerous body flicker jutsu. Show me. Naruto curled his lips and muttered in his heart, Jiraiya really has a big mouth. Tsunade won't let him continue to use this trick. In that case, he would have to use it secretly in the future. Wind chakra filled her entire body, compressing and exploding. Storm damage. Naruto disappeared in place, and when he reappeared, he was already in another part of the office. Then he returned to his original position. His speed was so fast that the turbulent airflow caused the documents on the table to fly all over the room. Tsunade praised, That's a good body flicker jutsu. Before she could finish, she saw a bloody mark on Naruto's hand. Naruto quietly put his hand behind his back, and then the corner of his mouth cracked open again. There was no way to hide this. He couldn't just put his head in his pants. Tsunade's body trembled when she saw the blood. She endured the discomfort and continued. It is indeed dangerous. Use it again. This time, don't move. I'll feel the changes in your body. Tsunade held Naruto's hand. Naruto was a little worried. Sister Tsunade, your hemophobia. Tsunade shook her head. It's okay. Don't worry about me. Naruto wanted to say something but hesitated. Did Shizen tell you about the treatment for hemophobia I mentioned? Tsunade nodded. Naruto smiled. Then this time it will be a treatment. Sister Tsunade, you have to be strong. Then he reminded. Also use chakra to protect your hand. In a while, my body will be full of chakra with the wind attribute. It will be very dangerous. Tsunade gathered chakra in her hands as she was told. Naruto no longer hesitated, and the wind attribute chakra covered his body. At this time, chakra was still relatively calm. Compression. The wind attribute chakra on Naruto's body was compressed into a wind blade. The wind blade cut on Tsunade's chakra, making a harsh scream. This reminded Naruto of the last time he fought with Sasuke. It was just that the scream at that time was many times stronger than this. Then came the explosion. How can I explode if I don't move? Naruto thought about it and found a solution. Then the compressed wind blade continued to be compressed, and the scream became louder. After the wind blade was compressed to the extreme, it suddenly burst. The wind blade exploded and turned into smaller wind blades. Tsunade increased the pressure of chakra in her hand at the right time. Sister Tsunade, that's it. Do you feel anything? Tsunade took a breath, then nodded seriously and replied, I feel that you are a monster. Who taught you how to make the wind blade explode to accelerate? Jiraiya also asked this question. Obviously, he couldn't answer Shikaku, so Naruto took the title of the creator of the body flicker jutsu to himself and shamelessly said, I thought of it myself. Tsunade's face changed from admiration to surprise, and she commented, Madman. Naruto was a little worried. Sister Tsunade, you won't be like that fool Jiraiya to stop me from using this ninjutsu, right? Tsunade rolled her eyes, meaning that if she didn't let Naruto use this ninjutsu, she would be a fool. But to be honest, Tsunade really didn't want to let Naruto use it. But thinking that Jiraiya didn't succeed in persuading her, she felt that she was asking for trouble. Thinking about it, she said, then it seems that I have to change your training course. Let's put aside learning about talisman arrays for now. I think I should teach you another use of yang chakra, monstrous strength. I heard from Hana Fujama that you wanted to learn this ninjutsu. Monstrous strength? Thinking back, Naruto embarked on the path of medical ninja, because of this ninjutsu. Because the store manager told him that this ninjutsu could strengthen the body, and increase the strength, which was very tempting for Naruto who wanted to increase the strength of the 8 gates. But later, his hair was gone. Compared to the 8 gates, he was now more obsessed with his hair. Naruto nodded and replied, I do want to, but what's the connection between this ninjutsu and my body flicker technique? Tsunade explained, the principle of monstrous strength is that the yang chakra resonates with the body and explodes the power. It has the same effect as your body flicker technique. If you learn it, it should be very helpful for you to control this ninjutsu. It can also reduce the possibility of you getting injured. Can it be like this? Well, the mission of saving his hair can be delayed for a while. Compared to learning healing to treat wounds, it is obviously more reliable to fundamentally control the damage. Tsunade continued, if you learn monstrous strength, it will consume a lot of physical energy. Your diet also needs to be changed. What do you eat every day now? Naruto thought about it and took out a list from the storage space in his right hand. In fact, he didn't know what to eat every day. What he ate was arranged by Haru and Haru. Tsunade was surprised to see Naruto reading the list. She asked, is there a recipe? Let me see. Then she looked at it for 5 minutes. Tsunade's face darkened. She handed the recipe back. No need to change it. No need to change it. Isn't it too good? According to this list, one person would need hundreds of thousands of ryo a week. Are those 2 girls so rich? If they were so rich, how could they be the little girl sitting in the ruins crying? Tsunade suddenly had the urge to report him. Naruto, have you always been eating according to this menu? Naruto thought about it and took out 5 more lists from the storage space. This is the previous one. Tsunade looked at it with a dark face. It was really nutritious. Compared to this, Tsunade felt that she ate pig food every day. But to be honest, Tun did eat with her every day. Naruto was worried. Is there a problem with my diet? If there is a problem, I will go back and change it according to your instructions, Tsunade said with a dark face. Then go buy a package of pig feed and drink it. Naruto blinked. Ah. Tsunade rolled her eyes and left. Naruto was confused. Why did he buy a package of pig feed? Is pig feed very nutritious? Should he tell Xia about it? Nine-Tails sneered. Did your IQ drop again? She's obviously mocking you. Naruto didn't understand and replied, "Why are you mocking me?" Ninetails snorted, "You should buy a package of pig feed to nourish your brain." Chapter 177. Naruto wouldn't buy pig feed to nourish the brain. In fact, did he really not understand the meaning of Tsunade's words? From the way Naruto put away the cookbook and smiled, it was obvious that this guy did it on purpose. Ninetails felt the difference in Naruto's mood and asked, "Did you do it on purpose?" Naruto replied, "Summer told me that someone has been investigating them recently, and the person investigating them is Jiraiya." Ninetails pondered for a moment, and with his IQ he couldn't figure out the connection between these two things. But he wouldn't say that he didn't understand. That would be ridiculed by Naruto. After all, he just mocked Naruto for eating pig feed. So he pretended to understand and nodded. What was the result of the test? In fact, this sentence already exposed that he didn't understand at all. Naruto smiled and replied, "It was Tsunade who asked Jiraiya to investigate, or Jiraiya told Tsunade after investigating." Ninetails still didn't understand. Naruto didn't intend to continue and replied, "I just suddenly had an idea and wanted to test it. But I thought of it before I tested it. It's not interesting. Anyway, let's go home and eat pastries." As long as Tsunade was willing to teach him, as long as Haru and Summer were not in danger, then everything was not important. If Summer and Spring were in danger, then he would have to think about it again. When he returned to the store manager's house, he was surprised. It wasn't Summer or Spring who opened the door. It was a little Loli. "Big brother is back. Welcome home, big brother." The little Loli was very cute, but what Naruto didn't understand was, why did he see this little Loli here? This little Loli was obviously not wild. Then someone else poked her head out. It was the girl with a pair of long legs but no arms he saw yesterday. He remembered her name was Big Gunny. Naruto didn't want to complain about the names of these three people. After coming out of the garden that day, Naruto looked through the name list. Naruto guessed that it was the girl in the wheelchair, and the one below was Little Gunny. Naruto guessed that it was the girl in the wheelchair. Naruto asked the dean. The dean said that the name was given by them, and no one knew what their real names were. "You, why are you here?" The little girl hopped over to Naruto's side and swung Naruto's hand. With an aggrieved look on her face, she asked, "Big brother, don't you welcome us?" If there were only these two people, they would naturally be welcomed. After all, the store manager's house was very big, and a few more wouldn't be a problem. But since the two of them were here, it meant that the guy in the wheelchair was here as well. Sure enough, before Naruto could answer, the man came out on his own. He was still in the wheelchair and he shouted, "See, I told you we shouldn't have come. They don't welcome us at all, so we should go back." Naruto's eyelids twitched and he didn't try to hide it. "If they don't welcome us, then it's just you. I still welcome Little Gunny and Big Gunny." The man in the wheelchair was provoked, and he shouted, "How can you be like this? You've seen my arms and legs. How can you not admit it?" Naruto wanted to ask if the man had legs, but he didn't want to hit someone in the face, and he didn't want to expose someone's shortcomings. He changed the topic and said, "Why are you still in the wheelchair? Are you here because your surgery failed?" Unexpectedly, the man in the wheelchair stood up arrogantly and spun around in a circle. At the same time, he didn't stop talking. "Sorry to disappoint a black-hearted man like you. My surgery was very successful." Then he sat in the wheelchair again and shouted, "But why do I have to stand when I can sit? I feel good sitting in a wheelchair." Naruto's mouth twitched. Big Gunny explained, "Why, you told us that you live here." And then, Naruto waited for the rest of the story, but there was nothing. After returning this time, Naruto didn't hide the fact that he lived in the store manager's house. Therefore, Naruto wasn't surprised that Hwayu knew where he lived. What he was curious about was why the three girls came. Since they didn't say anything, Naruto had to ask himself, "And then? Why are you looking for me?" The little Loli continued to swing Naruto's arm and said, "Teacher Hwayu said that you would introduce jobs to us, so I came. Big brother, do you not welcome us? If you don't welcome us..." Naruto smiled and rubbed the little girl's head. "Of course you're welcome, but the job will have to wait for a month or two. But you can stay here first. I'll get Xia to arrange rooms for you. Xia heard her name and appeared. If it's already arranged, tell me, master. Arranged. Master? If you still know that I'm the master, can you ask me in advance? Naruto complained in his heart, but he knew he was a fake master. Sigh. Heartbreaking. Since Xia had already arranged everything, there was nothing for him to do. At the dining table, as usual, Xia and Chun were still standing beside Naruto. Now they seemed to have the aura of a master. However, Naruto knew. It was just that Chun and Xia had finished eating. Isn't Sister Xia eating? The little loli asked. Naruto replied. Your sister Xia is a robot that I made. She doesn't eat. Then the little loli took it seriously. She stopped eating and ran to Xia's body, jumping up and down and touching it. Xia stared at Naruto with resentment. Naruto held back his laughter. The little loli shouted, "Where's the switch? Robots need to have switches, right?" Until Dagoni couldn't stand his silly sister, and took it off. Are you an idiot? Your big brother Naruto was just teasing you. After hearing the truth, the little loli pouted. She was very resentful towards Xia for not being a robot. Her eyes still wandered as if she wanted to find something like an antenna. After dinner, Naruto continued to assemble the other people's artificial limbs. Because there were many of them, he assembled them in the living room without anyone's back. Chun and Xia tried to assemble Gutung's artificial limbs, but they lost interest. One was making coffee, and the other was making pastries. There were suddenly 3 more people in the house, and the demand had increased a lot. On the other hand, the new little loli and the other 2 people were very interested. Naruto's eyes lit up. He was never one to do meaningless things. Hence he guided them. Little Gu, do you want to try it too? The little girl's eyes lit up when she heard that. She said in disbelief, "Can I?" Naruto smiled kindly. Of course. Then he taught the little girl how to assemble it. The other 2 people were itching to try. Naruto said calmly, "Do you want to try it too? This is a test of your hands-on ability." Thus he successfully pulled the 3 of them into the water. After the 3 of them successfully assembled a prosthetic limb, Naruto taught them how to test it. Seeing the 3 of them busy, Naruto was very satisfied. It seemed that in less than a week, everyone's prosthetic limbs would be ready. Free labor, that's great. It's not free. Dinner costs a lot. But he didn't need to pay for it, so it's still free labor, that's great. Tomorrow, he will start to learn monster strength. He estimated that after learning the 3rd gate of Hashiman Tanku, he will be able to open it. Then he will learn In Seal. After learning In Seal, he will learn creation and regeneration. After learning creation and regeneration, his hair will grow back. Just as Naruto was drawing his blueprint for the future, a person came to the Woodleaf Cemetery. The person hesitantly came in front of a tombstone. After a while, he left again. To be honest, if this scene was seen by others, it would be scary enough. Fortunately, only one crow saw the whole process. Woodleaf Umbu. A Yamanaka clan member closed his eyes and maintained the Yamanaka clan's heart rotation jutsu. After a long time, he released the jutsu and reported to the people around him. Naruto, Sama just went to the cemetery. The person's right eye was wrapped in gauze. He muttered to himself. She sent Jiraiya away. It seems that she can't help but want to make a move. It seems that the information given by that guy is indeed reliable. But what's the point of resurrecting the dead? What a silly girl. But it's convenient for me. Chapter 178. The next day, the sun was shining brightly. Naruto delivered the 4 sealed artificial limbs to Hana Fujita early in the morning. He also specifically told her that the job would only be available after 2 months. What he meant was that she shouldn't tell anyone where he lived. Hana Fujita asked with uncertainty, "Did Gunny and the others cause you trouble?" They didn't cause any trouble, and they even helped a lot. Otherwise, Naruto wouldn't have been able to assemble 4 artificial limbs so easily. Naruto shook his head. No, it's just that if there are more people, we won't be able to make enough food at home. There was one more thing he didn't say. That was the store manager's house. Although he was the store manager's apprentice, he wasn't the store manager's son-in-law. Hana Fujita sighed in relief and explained, "They asked to find you. I thought they caused you trouble." Then she thought about it and suggested, "If food is a problem, how about I transfer their subsidies to your name?" Subsidies? When it came to subsidies, Naruto felt a headache. Back then, he was also someone who received subsidies to live. Although for a long time, to be precise, he wasn't the one who received subsidies. But after the memories were merged, the feeling of sadness was not much different from experiencing it himself. Naruto waved his hand. "Then there's no need. Leave the money in the sanatorium and share it with the others. It can at least improve the quality of life and food." Hana Fujita was moved. She looked at Naruto seriously and praised, "Naruto, you're really a good person. You should feel honored to be praised." But for some reason, this praise was thorny and a little heart-wrenching. After leaving the hospital, Naruto went straight to Naruto's building. He wanted to come early and cultivate early, but he didn't expect Tsunade to be overwhelmed by a table full of documents. Where did all these documents come from? Tsunade didn't even raise her head. After the third Naruto left, Naruto's position was vacant for more than a month, so the work was piled up. Naruto picked one up and read, "Sue the owner of the sushi restaurant for having cockroaches in the restaurant." Even Naruto wants to get involved in this? That's true. After all, Naruto is the village chief. Then she took another roll and opened it reading, "Sue. The quality of the XX set sold by the XX store was not up to standard, causing an accidental pregnancy?" Naruto. Pfft. Mutine helped to organize the documents and rolled her eyes at Naruto. "If you're free, come and help me deliver a document." Naruto leaned over. It was rare for Sister Shizuan to take the initiative to ask him for help. He had to seize the opportunity to show off. "Who are you giving it to?" "I promised to complete the mission." Mute picked up a scroll. Naruto recognized that it was an encrypted scroll. It was the kind that couldn't be opened without a special technique. Danzo. Naruto was petrified. PFFF. Did Mutine do it on purpose? In the entire wood leaf, the person that Naruto didn't want to meet the most was Danzo. Of course, using pigeons to investigate didn't count. In any case, he definitely didn't want to meet him. But since he had already agreed, multiple shadow clone technique. Bang! A clone appeared beside Naruto. There was a saying that went, "Dying friends is better than dying oneself." So it was better to send a clone. Mutine took back the scroll and scolded, "This is a very important document. You actually sent a clone?" Naruto replied wittily, "The dark unit isn't far from Naruto's building. Or are you saying that wood leaf isn't safe?" Mutine said disdainfully, "I'm afraid that your clone won't be able to send chakra halfway, and will self-destruct." Naruto gritted his teeth and promised, "Don't worry. My clone once held on for 3 days." A clone could hold on for 3 days? This was bullsh*t. Mutine expressed that she didn't believe it and still insisted that Naruto use his main body. Tsunade didn't raise her eyes and said, "Go, that guy can't eat you." So, Naruto took the scroll and went to the dark unit. Naruto had always been avoiding Danzo. To what extent? Even if it was the noodles that he had just ordered, as long as he saw Danzo, Naruto would rather not eat it and just turn his head and leave. Naruto said that it wasn't because he was afraid, but because the toad's feet didn't bite. So what the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Walking into the dark unit, with the seal of Naruto on the scroll, Naruto was unimpeded all the way. Ninetales complained, "Naruto, I feel that your heart is beating a little faster." Naruto replied, "It's too hot and stuffy." Ninetales grinned. But it didn't last long. The moment he saw that person, Ninetales exploded. "Danzo-sama, this is the secret letter that Naruto-sama asked me to give to you." Naruto handed over the secret letter with both hands. Naruto and Danzo didn't have a superior and subordinate relationship, so Naruto stood very steadily and only bowed slightly. Danzo didn't let anyone pick it up, but walked over himself, but his eyes didn't look at the scroll, but stared at Naruto's face. He didn't pick it up when he walked in, which made Naruto feel very embarrassed. It felt strange to be stared at by an old thing like this. Danzo-sama, your secret letter. Danzo didn't take it. Naruto took the initiative to hand it over. If you don't pick it up, you'll be too much. Believe it or not, I'll just let it go. Forget it, if I let it go, I might have to pick it up myself, which is even more embarrassing. This time Danzo took the scroll. He opened his mouth and said, I saw your battle in Chunon's exam. It was very good, the layout was well thought out, you're a rare talent. I want to invite you to the dark department. Invite him to the dark department? Naruto said uncertainly. I'll join the dark department. It's not suitable, right? Doesn't the dark department need people who are strong and decisive? I didn't even pass the exam in Chunin, I'm too weak. Danzo looked at Naruto meaningfully and said, You're not weak at all, and you must be a decisive person, don't rush to deny it. It hasn't been that long since the Wave Nation mission. I've also flipped through the dossiers of that mission. Your performance in it was particularly outstanding. First, you killed 2 Chunin with 2 shadow clones, and then killed a person called Bai. Naruto smiled and said, That's all luck, the clones killing people also shocked me. A smile appeared on Danzo's face. I also checked the identity of that Bai. If that person's strength participated in the last Chunin's exam, he should be second only to the person in Sannin, but he died in your hands. This old guy really pays attention to me, he even wants to check a person who is already dead. If it was another person who praised him, Naruto would be very happy. But to be praised by Danzo, it was really funny. Let's think about how to deal with this old guy. I always feel that there is such an old guy always thinking about me, it's creepy. Seeing that Naruto didn't answer, Danzo smiled and said, This invitation is indeed a bit too sudden. You can go back and think about it, don't rush to answer, you can come to me at any time when you think about it. Believe me, I have never been wrong about people. You are a person who is born to live in the darkness. After leaving the dark operation, Naruto asked Nine Tails, Nine Llamas Sensei, do you think Danzo was mocking me or praising me? Nine Tails didn't answer. Naruto's consciousness sank into the sealed space of Nine Tails. Then he saw Nine Tails, who was 3 times fatter. He couldn't help but ridicule. Are you posing? Nine Tails gritted his teeth and said, He has an aura that I am familiar with, but that person should have died several years ago. How many years is dead several years? Is it Shursui or Shodai? But to be able to make Nine Tails so excited, it should be Shodai. Naruto comforted him. Don't get too excited, don't spread chakra, calm down, you are still a handsome fox. Chapter 179. Do you want to go to the Ambu to play? Naruto was afraid that he would lose his life if he continued to play. So Naruto warned himself to stop this time. Don't court death. If Danzo gave him a kami and asked him to call him dad, it wouldn't be fun. Well, calling him grandma wouldn't work either. After returning to Naruto's office, Naruto didn't mention Danzo's recruitment. He helped Tsunade deal with the documents in the morning, and began to practice in the afternoon. Tsunade's small class started for the first time. Tsunade finally had the demeanor of one of the Sannin. Her body was straight, and her expression was solemn. Her words were no longer as frivolous as before. She was completely in the state of a teacher. Today, I'll briefly explain the principle of monster force. Spread ordinary chakra all over your body to increase your strength and speed. This is the most frequently used skill of chakra. Tsunade raised her leg and kicked a thick tree trunk. It was an upper whip kick, which was Xiao Li's wood-leaf whirlwind. His leg hit the tree trunk. The tree trunk trembled from the kick, and more than half of the tree's leaves fell off. Then with a creak, a crack appeared on the tree trunk. Finally, it swayed and fell down reluctantly. This move was already very strong for ordinary people, but for Tsunade it was weak. Tsunade continued to explain, Don't doubt it. The blow just now was indeed my full blow, but I didn't use chakra. Next, I'll show you how to use ordinary chakra. She turned around and kicked a trunk as thick as a small basin. It was the upper whip kick wood-leaf whirlwind. The momentum was strong, and the wind was on her feet. Whether it was speed or strength, it increased more than 5 times. The next moment, the tree didn't have time to shake off its leaves. and it was directly kicked to pieces in the middle of the roar. Tsunade explained, "This is the effect of using ordinary chakra. The power of the explosion is 10 times stronger than the ordinary body. Of course, not everyone can increase the strength of a normal chakra by 10 times. Ordinary people can only increase their strength by 2 to 5 times. Above 5 times, one needs to train hard and have unparalleled talent." When Naruto heard this, he clapped his hands and praised, "Then Sister Tsunade's talent is definitely top-notch." This praise made Tsunade very happy. She nodded and explained in detail, "More than 5 times, relying on talent and perseverance can only increase the strength to about 7 or 8 times. I can increase it to 10 times. The most important point is that I am a medical ninja. I know the body better than ordinary people." After saying that, his expression turned solemn. "Next, I will demonstrate the power that will erupt when the yang attribute chakra resonates with the body." As he said that, he lifted his leg. This time he didn't attack the tree, but he kicked the ground. Then it was a big scene, a real big scene. Naruto kicked over a house in Bunka Street last time. It was nothing compared to this. As soon as Tsunade's hands and feet landed on the ground, there was a rumbling sound, as if thunderclouds were rolling in the sky. The earth trembled violently, like an earthquake. Like a broken mirror, the ground cracked around Tsunade's feet. The place where Tsunade stood collapsed more than 3 or 4 meters. The area covered was 10 meters in diameter. Naruto blinked and swore in his heart that he would never provoke Sister Tsunade. In the future, Sister Tsunade will be his sister, his mother, and his ancestor. He will definitely not fight back, and he will not talk back when scolded. Can this be caused by a human? Little Lee could only open 5 gates at this level, right? What is one of the Sannin? At this moment, Naruto finally knew how shallow his knowledge was in the past. Tsunade patted the non-existent dust on her body and said, "This is the power of the yang attribute chakra after resonance with the body." When Naruto was about to applaud, Tsunade added, "To be precise, the power of the yang attribute chakra will be multiplied by 1 layer. On this basis, every layer of chakra will be multiplied by 10 times. In my normal state, I can stack up to 5 layers. When I unlock the Yin seal and enter the Baihao technique state, I can stack up to 10 layers. This is a strange power." Gulp. Naruto swallowed his saliva and swallowed all the flattering words and worship slogans. "Tsunade is my mother. I will serve her like a mother. From now on, if anyone provokes my mother, I will be angry with them. Of course, the most important thing is that I must not die in front of her. What fart candy, diarrhea candy? I will destroy it when I go back." Thinking about the last fart candy incident, it was also thrilling. If Tsunade was in a bad mood at that time, she could have done it to him. He was afraid that with his small body, he would have been broken into 2 pieces. At that time, not to mention the 9 tails, even the Jubi. Well, the Jubi could almost save his life. But the Jubi is the Rakuto's mother, not his mother. Why would she save him? At the same time, he also had to thank himself for being wise enough to worship Tsunade as his teacher. Otherwise, Tsunade would have slapped his neck even if she was in a good mood. With Tsunade's big neck, I'm afraid she'll have to cut off her head to fart. "Mom." "No, cough cough." "Sister Tsunade, you are really amazing. From now on, you are the road sign of my life. If you tell me to go east, I will never go west. If you tell me to steal a dog, I will never touch a chicken." Tsunade couldn't help but laugh. Puffed. She found that her apprentice was really too funny. So she came to Naruto's side, raised her hand and rubbed Naruto's smooth bald head, and laughed. "How about you keep this little monk hairstyle in the future?" Naruto choked and said with a sad face, "Mom, can we change it?" This time he heard the word mother clearly. His expression froze for a moment. Then he rubbed it even harder. "Good boy, this hairstyle is better than any other hair color. It will definitely charm thousands of girls, and give birth to a bunch of fat boys." Pfft. Naruto almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Shizune, who was holding Tun and watching the fun, trembled and almost died on the spot. What kind of strange master and apprentice is this? It's fine if he doesn't call her master and calls her sister. Now he's calling her mother and good son? You are Naruto, Tsunade-sama. The leader of the village, Naruto-sama. Even if Naruto is out of tune, why are you also out of tune? Thinking of this, Shizen suddenly thought of the casino that was being renovated. Well, she took back what she said before. Tsunade was never out of tune. It's just, with Naruto's interference, I'm afraid it will be even more out of tune in the future. Jingyin suddenly felt that it was very tiring to be by such an adult's side, and her liver hurt. While stroking Tun, Shizen found Tun giggling. Shizen narrowed her eyes and observed Tun. At this time, Tun was biting the beads on the big necklace hanging around his neck and laughing. This pig seems to be out of tune recently. Is it also infected by Naruto? It seems that since eating fart candy, this pig is very clingy to Naruto. My Tun, you won't be infected by that guy, right? Wait. I'm not infected, am I? Shizen began to recall everything she did in the morning. From getting up and opening her eyes, to brushing her teeth and washing her face, to getting dressed, and to waking Tsunade-sama up. Then the two went to Naruto's building, and began to deal with the documents. She thought about every detail very carefully, and finally confirmed that she was not contaminated. This is very good. In the future, she must stay far away from Naruto, as far away as possible, and absolutely not say a word to him. Even the space with him should be ventilated. If it's not ventilated, she should open the windows. Otherwise, just breathing the same air in the same space will probably be infected. Seriously, is this the thinking of a normal person? If Naruto knew what Shizen was thinking, he would definitely laugh and say, "You are deeply poisoned, and there is no cure. It's better to follow in my footsteps and die together." Ahahaha. The magic sound entered her mind and lingered for 3 days without dispersing. Regardless of how wonderful the drama in Shizen's mind was, after Tsunade rubbed Naruto's head enough, she began to formally explain. The reason why the monster force is activated by the Yang attribute chakra is mainly because the Yang attribute contains the strongest vitality and is also the most gentle, and your body flicker technique uses the wind attribute chakra. The wind attribute chakra is gentle like a spring breeze, but once it explodes, it will be destroyed. So, unless it's a last resort, you should use that ninjutsu as little as possible in actual combat, at least until you can really master it, because no one can predict what kind of accident will happen in a battle. To put it simply, if the air in the space you're fighting in is filled with poisonous gas purposely released by the enemy, then that seemingly insignificant small wound will be the most fatal blow that will take your life. Hearing this, Naruto's scalp tingled. Recently, he had been researching how to poison the air without making a sound. Tsunade-ne-sen is right, I will never use it in battle unless it's a last resort. Naruto was very cautious when it came to his life. Tsunade nodded with satisfaction. She had thought about it all night long before coming up with this idea. Now it seems that she succeeded. Very good. She patted Naruto's head and said, "When you practice the monster force to my level, the speed of the explosion of pure strength will not be much slower than your body flicker technique. Of course, if you can fully master that technique and make up for the flaw of hurting yourself, that technique will be very terrifying to the extreme." Naruto nodded again and again. Tsunade solved one of her worries, and she could finally teach Naruto with peace of mind. Otherwise, she was always worried that Naruto would play with her to death. Tsunade took out a scroll and handed it to Naruto. This is some of the notes I made. It records some of the reactions of the human body after being stimulated by chakra. Read this and remember it in your mind. Then use the records on it to burst out 10 times the strength of ordinary chakra. And I will teach you the monster force. 10 times the strength. Isn't 7 or 8 times the limit of ordinary people? Naruto blinked and looked up in disbelief. 10 times? Tsunade patted Naruto's head and said, "Yes, 10 times. You don't lack talent, right? How can a narcissistic person like Naruto think that he lacks talent?" He shook his head immediately. Then Tsunade continued to ask, "You don't lack diligence, right?" "Well, I was lazy for a while, but recently I have been very diligent." So Naruto shook his head again. Tsunade finally said, "You are also a medical ninja, right? And you are a very good medical ninja." Naruto gritted his teeth and said proudly, "Of course." Tsunade rubbed Naruto's head and said, Then you can definitely achieve 10 times. Naruto nodded cheerfully and replied with certainty. I can definitely achieve it. Tsunade and Shizen left, leaving Naruto alone in the forest to practice. Shizen came to Tsunade's side and whispered, Tsunade-sama, are you kidding? The limit of ordinary people. At most 7 times is the limit. The only one who exceeds this limit is Reikage, but you said that Reikage only has 8 times. After saying that, Shizen's eyes lit up. You don't want to teach him? Right. He is so good at acting, and now he is already very troublesome, so you came up with this idea? Tsunade raised her hand and slapped Shizen's neck, and scolded. What are you thinking in your head? Since I accepted Naruto as my disciple, I will naturally teach him seriously. How can I do something that will lead him astray? Shizen was in pain. Since she was 13 years old, this was the first time Tsunade slapped her. She immediately restrained herself and showed an obedient expression, and asked weakly, But he can't reach 10 times at all. Didn't you say that you are the granddaughter of first Hokage? Tsunade rolled her eyes. Do you think I will tell you that Naruto's mother is Uzumaki Kushina? When has the body of the Uzumaki clan been weak? Shizen suddenly realized. It turned out to be the Uzumaki clan. No wonder he is the human pillar force of the 9 Tails at such a young age. Then her face changed, and her eyes widened, and she couldn't believe it. What? Uzumaki Kushina. Is it the Uzumaki Kushina? Tsunade raised her hand and slapped Shizen again, but Shizen's voice was too loud. Shizen covered her mouth and then whispered. Doesn't that mean that Naruto's father is? She didn't say this sentence, and her fingers made a forefinger gesture. It means Yandame Naruto. Tsunade nodded and sighed. I was shocked when I found out. Jiraiya didn't tell me until a few days ago. That damn guy, when did he learn to be so cunning? I was wondering why he desperately wanted to accept Naruto as his apprentice. But thinking about it carefully, only that person's child can make him so attentive. After all, that person gave him a lot of face, but it's a pity he left in a hurry. Tsunade walked a few steps in silence and sighed. I always think that Naruto is a cursed position. No matter who sits on it, or who thinks of it as an ideal, in the end, will not have a good end. Shizen was shocked after hearing it and she panicked. Tsunade-sama, how can you curse yourself? You are Naruto now. Tsunade looked gloomy, smiled at herself and said, I will not have a good end. When Shizen heard this sentence, her heart couldn't help but tremble. She shouted, Tsunade-sama, don't be like this. You like this, you like this. Shizen was very worried about Tsunade, and Tsunade's words made her feel that something bad was going to happen. That feeling was very strong when she saw Tsunade's expression just now. Uncle won't be happy if you do this. Chapter 180. In a week, Naruto increased Chakra's power from 5 times to 7 times. However, he finally reached a bottleneck. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't increase it by even a little bit. Unless he opened the Hashimoto Tanku. But after opening the Hashimoto Tanku, the first gate could only increase his power by 8 times. The second gate could barely increase his power by 9 times, but he still couldn't reach 10 times. Naruto went to find Tsunade. Tsunade's reply to him was that he wasn't working hard enough. So Naruto worked even harder. As a result of their hard work, the cliffs on the west bank of Konoha began to become thinner and thinner. Every day, the gravel crackled and fell, big and small, single and large. Crash, crash, crash. They practiced for another week. 2 days before this week, Naruto went home to eat. Later on, he asked the idle people at home to send food to the cliff. Little Gunny loved this task the most. The other 2 treated it as a daily walk and came along as well. Today, on the last day of the week, the 3 of them brought the delicious food prepared by Summer to the cliff. Naruto stopped and looked at Gunny, who was acting strangely. He didn't know what this girl was thinking. She could walk, but she insisted on sitting in a wheelchair. If she was sitting in a wheelchair, then so be it. If she was sitting in a wheelchair on flat ground, then so be it. The wheelchair definitely couldn't be used on mountain roads, so this girl would carry the wheelchair when the road wasn't good. She would put it down when the road wasn't good. What a pain in the ass. Anyway, Naruto was tired just looking at her. Big brother, I've brought the food. Little Gunny ran over happily with a box of food in his hand. Naruto rubbed the little girl's head. Today, she was wearing a braid. He didn't know whose idea it was, but it looked fun. Naruto had the urge to grab the braid and see if he could lift it up. This idea was too violent. Naruto decided to reflect on it. After the food was delivered, it was free time for them to do whatever they wanted. Little Gunny knew how to catch butterflies and climb trees, so Big Gunny looked after him. As for Gunny, she sat in the wheelchair leisurely and watched Big Gunny and Little Gunny. She looked like a kind grandfather who couldn't walk and watched his naughty grandson run. That's hilarious. After finishing his meal, Naruto placed the lunchbox beside Gurney's wheelchair and continued running towards the cliff. Gurney said, "The cliff is about to collapse." Naruto turned to look at the cliff. At this moment, the top of the cliff was still the same as before. The bottom part was dented by Naruto's daily hammer, and as a whole, it looked like the tusks of an elephant. Naruto nodded. Although Gurney was unreliable, he still had some business to attend to. He replied, "It does look like it's about to collapse. Thanks." Waving his hand, he leaped up to the top of the cliff and began hammering at the spot in the sky. He was going to hammer down the part of the cliff that was in the sky so that he wouldn't be buried under the rubble when he hammered at the bottom. The method of hammering was to wrap chakra in his fist or leg and bombard it. The three girls who were hammered down the cliff went home and hammered until the sky was full of stars and the moon was crying. The cliff didn't collapse, but a big hole was hammered out from the top. Let's call it a day. Naruto patted his butt and planned to go home. After 2 weeks of continuous training, Naruto benefited a lot from chakra's increase in strength and speed. He didn't need to open the Hashiman Tanku. Just by infusing chakra into his body, the speed of chakra's eruption was several times faster than before. Rising and falling, he was like a bolt of lightning in the darkness, disappearing in the blink of an eye. After Naruto left, 2 heads popped out from a big tree far away from the cliff. They were Tsunade and Shizun. Shizun watched Naruto leave, and then glanced at the sunken cliff. She was speechless. I didn't expect Naruto to be so crazy when it comes to training. In just 1 week, he can increase chakra's eruption of strength from 5 times to 7 times. That's crazy. Tsunade retracted her gaze and said proudly, "Who taught him that?" Shizun looked at Tsunade. There was something on the tip of her tongue that she didn't say. "What else did you teach him besides giving him notes? He's completely wild and free-range." Then she thought of another question and said uncertainly, "Naruto needs a medicinal bath to train like this, right? Otherwise, after a long time, his body will inevitably be exhausted. At that time, he'll be crippled. After all, chakra extracts vitality from the cells. Overuse will speed up the body's aging." Tsunade shook her head and said firmly, "No, this guy eats well." "Eats well? No matter how well he eats, he can't withstand such consumption. That's just an excuse. You don't want to spend money, right?" Shizun expressed her doubts. "How well?" Tsunade frowned. Thinking of Naruto's diet, she was in a bad mood. She snorted. "It's so good that what we eat is pig food compared to him." "Pig food?" Dolphin in Shizun's arms was unhappy. "Did the pig provoke you?" He wrinkled his nose and buried his head in Shizun's arms with an unhappy expression. However, Tsunade directly ignored him. The 2 came down from the tree and didn't go straight home. Instead, they walked to the cliff where Naruto was training. Tsunade pressed her hand on the ground and grabbed a layer of fine sand that had been smashed. Her eyebrows wrinkled. Shizun also looked over, but she didn't see anything wrong. She couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Tsunade muttered to herself. "This sand should be the effect of chakra's eruption of strength 9 times. Shizun exclaimed. 9 times. Did Naruto increase chakra's eruption to 9 times? That. Shizun didn't say anything for a long time. The extreme shock made her stutter. Tsunade shook her head and said, "No, chakra's eruption is up to 7 times, but it's 9 times the effect." 7 times eruption is 9 times the effect? What does that mean? Shizun was even more confused. Tsunade shook her head and said, maybe I'm wrong. After all, the composition of the rock is not the same. Maybe the density and hardness of this piece of rock are relatively low, so it turned into sand. Let's go back. The two returned to the door. Tsunade didn't go home. Instead, she asked Shizen to prepare a bath for her. She returned to Naruto's office, picked up the file and flipped through it. Finally, she found a note. After the graduation exam of the ninja school, Naruto stole the Forbidden Technique scroll and learned the multiple shadow clone jutsu. Tsunade frowned. How can something as important as the Forbidden Technique scroll be stolen so casually? What kind of trick is Sensei doing? However, with Naruto's memory, it's impossible for him to only remember the multiple shadow clone jutsu. After all, he's someone who can memorize the entire plant dictionary. 7 times Chakra's eruption is 9 times the effect. Tsunade took a breath and muttered to herself. It should be Hashiman Tonku, and there's more than one. My adorable disciple, you always bring me surprises. She was a little worried. I just don't know. Will you use that technique? Will you want to resurrect your parents? Thinking of that technique, Tsunade couldn't help but think of the dead Duan and her brother Nuki. These days, she was struggling whether to use that technique. Tsunade put down the file, looked at the moonlight outside the ninja building with her hands behind her back, and sighed. It's enough that I'm the only one guilty. Naruto, don't follow my path. Chapter 181. In the 3rd week, according to the original plan, they continued to hammer the cliff. However, Naruto received a message that Kakashi had returned and joined the Umbu. Therefore, Team 7 was completely disbanded. This is really bad news as expected. Fortunately, the Umbu that Kakashi joined was not Danzo's route, but the Umbu that obeyed Naruto. Woodleaf's Umbu was the same as when Sandaime was still in Danzo. The Umbu that obeyed Naruto in a broad sense, and the Umbu that Danzo operated privately under the pretext of training the Umbu route. In the Naruto building, Kakashi, Naruto, and Hinata listened to the announcement of the disbandment of Team 7. Hinata looked at Naruto, and Naruto smiled comfortingly. Sasuke was not there, and the team was not complete, so the disbandment was inevitable to some extent. Another point was that Naruto wanted to seize the time to practice and didn't want to take on any boring tasks. Therefore, even if Tsunade didn't disband the team, he would find a way to leave Team 7. For example, he had already planned to join the medical class. Naruto now has his own office in the hospital, and the promotion to Chunin also took the path of medical ninja, so, the ending was doomed. As for Hinata's path, Naruto would advise her to go home and practice. Hinata was the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan anyway. If she didn't want to be a ninja, no one would stop her. Outside the ninja building, Kakashi suggested, "Why don't we find a place to eat?" It was rare for Kakashi to take the initiative to treat. Naruto seconded, "Since Kakashi-sensei is treating, we must take advantage of it." The 3 of them found a barbecue shop nearby, because the aroma of the barbecue was very fragrant. They could smell it even when they were walking on the street. Also, the barbecue shop was very close to them. Plus, no matter where they went to eat, it was the same in a sense. They just wanted to find a place to talk. At the dining table, Kakashi looked at Naruto and smiled. Jiraiya-sama came to me before Chunin's exam, and said that he would be more suitable to teach you. I didn't expect you to be the disciple of Tsunade-sama. Naruto grinned and said, Jiraiya-sama's ninjutsu is not suitable for me. Besides, my medical ninjutsu is very strong. It would be a waste not to take Tsunade as my master. Kakashi smiled bitterly. Whether it was Jiraiya or Tsunade, they were both one of Konoha's Sannin. They were both the strongest existences in Konoha. To have the right to choose between the two, perhaps only this guy in front of him was so lucky. He was so lucky that it made people jealous. Kakashi turned to look at Hinata. Hinata, why are you unhappy? Did Naruto make you unhappy? Today, Kakashi spoke a lot more than usual. Naruto could feel the reluctance in Kakashi's heart, and he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. But he knew better that the weak had no right to feel emotional. Emotional was something that the strong did when they were bored. As a weak person, What he should do at this time was only to continue to practice and become strong. Naruto looked at Hinata and said directly, Hinata, Team 7's removal is inevitable, so don't be too sad. Hinata raised her head and looked at Naruto. She wanted to say something but stopped. In her heart, she hoped that Naruto could find a way to save Team 7. After all, Naruto was Naruto's apprentice, but Naruto didn't. She didn't know what to do. On the one hand, she supported Naruto in her heart anyway, but if Team 7 was removed, then she and Naruto would have fewer chances to get along. Kakashi heard Naruto's words and laughed. If you successfully promote to Chunin this time, then Team 7 will be removed. Because Ninja's task is based on the needs of the village. Some tasks require teams, some tasks only require individuals, and some tasks require several teams, so don't be sad because of this. At least, we are still in the same village, aren't we? It's not a farewell, so don't be too sad. Hinata nodded obediently, but it could be seen that she was still not happy. After tea, when the three separated, Kakashi called Naruto and then handed a scroll to Naruto. This is my father's handwritten book about swordsmanship. You like to use swords, maybe it will be useful for you. Kakashi's father, with leaf white fanged? Then this scroll is more than useful. Naruto looked at Kakashi, solemnly bowed, and then took it with both hands. Kakashi smiled and said, You don't have to be so serious, it's just some casual notes. After handing the scroll to Naruto, Kakashi waved his hand and was about to leave, but he was stopped by Naruto. Kakashi, sensei, I heard that your father's weapon is broken. I think I can help you reconnect it. He turned to look at Naruto and said in disbelief, You can reconnect it. Naruto nodded seriously and said affirmatively, I can reconnect it. Then Kakashi's smiling expression suddenly changed back to the dead fish eyes of the past, and he directly slapped Naruto's neck. Why didn't you say earlier that you can reconnect it? If I don't give you some benefits, you won't care about it. Naruto smiled awkwardly and replied, How could I? But in his heart he said two words, nonsense. Kakashi went home to get the broken white fang, and Naruto began to work on Hinata's thoughts. You're not happy? Hinata pursed her lips. Naruto raised his hand and directly pinched Hinata's face, pulling a curved smile. Hinata rolled her eyes at Naruto and slapped away the strange hand pinching her face. You're so annoying. The two laughed and joked, and Naruto said seriously, Hinata, after class 7 is dismissed, you should go home and practice physical arts at home. Hinata looked at Naruto. What about you? Naruto replied, I'm going to practice under Naruto-sama. Don't worry, I won't go out of the village, and I won't encounter any danger. If you miss me, you can go to my place to find me. By the way, you don't know the address yet, I'll write it for you. With that, Naruto began to write. Hinata opened her mouth and closed it in the end. In fact, she knew where Naruto lived. After Naruto came back, she went to Naruto's original place to look for him a few times, but Naruto was not at home. Even when she waited until dark, there was no one. In the end, she asked Hwayu, and Hwayu gave her Naruto's new address. She went, but did not enter the door, because she saw a very cute girl walking in with a bag of vegetables. Then, she rolled her eyes and looked outside for a long time, and found that there was another girl inside. Naruto was talking and laughing with the two of them, and he looked happier than when he was with her. So, here, this is my new place. This is the house of the shop owner who taught me how to forge swords. He's not here for a while, so the wood leaf is convenient for me. Hinata took the piece of paper with the address written on it. It was the place she had been to. Naruto patted his chest and said, If anyone bullies you, come and find me. Even if it's your cousin, I'll beat him up until he can't tell north from south. Hinata's heart suddenly warmed. Since Naruto asked her to find him, it meant that the two girls might not have that kind of relationship with Naruto. At this time, Kakashi came back with the broken white tooth wrapped in brocade. He said worriedly, Naruto, take a look. Can it be reattached? Naruto looked at it. Instead of calling it a sword, it was more like a short knife. From the handle to the tip, it was only 30 centimeters long. It was broken neatly, but that was not important. No matter how broken it was, he could just melt it and recast it. He had participated in the imitation of the beheading knife, so how could he not be able to forge a 30-centimeter knife? Naruto nodded confidently. No problem. I guarantee that it can be reattached, and it will be exactly the same as before. Kakashi breathed a sigh of relief. He patted Naruto's shoulder and said seriously, "Then I'll leave the white tooth to you. Thank you very much." Naruto nodded and accepted the gratitude. Then he asked, "Do you want to fix it casually? Or do you want to refine it?" Kakashi was stunned and asked subconsciously, "Is there a difference?" Naruto replied, "Casually it'll be 100,000 taels. If you want to refine it, it'll be 10 million taels." Kakashi's expression froze. Lightning gathered on his body and surged through the hand holding Naruto's shoulder. Under the electric shock, Naruto's body began to dance and he begged for mercy. Kakashi increased the electric shock. How much? Naruto shook his head while trembling. He seemed to have epilepsy. He meant that he didn't want it. Kakashi continued to increase the electric shock. Do you want another 100,000 taels? The electric shock increased, and Naruto shook even more violently. Kakashi increased the electric shock again. Do you want another 10 million taels? The air was already filled with the smell of burnt feathers. Hinata weakly begged for mercy. Kakashi-sensei, I'll be cooked if you hit me again. Kakashi let go of his hand, and then stuffed the wood leaf white tooth into Naruto's arms. Fix it for me. If you can't fix it, hee. Naruto opened his mouth and black smoke floated out. After a while, he returned to normal and put White Crow into the storage tool on his right wrist. After going out, Naruto looked back at Kakashi and gnashed his teeth. I will tell Naruto about you electrocuting me. I hope you won't be smashed into a pancake. When Kakashi heard this, he teleported to Naruto's side and was about to give him another electric shock treatment. However, Naruto was already prepared. The second gate of the Hashiman Tanku had been opened before leaving the shop, and a large number of chakra had gathered. At the same time Kakashi used the teleportation technique, the chakra on Naruto's body changed. It compressed the wind blade, and the wind blade exploded. Shikaka's secret technique, Storm Wound, burst out and disappeared in front of Kakashi's eyes in the blink of an eye. Only a sentence echoed in the surroundings. You're finished. Just wait to be turned into a pancake. Naruto disappeared in the blink of an eye. Kakashi looked at Naruto's disappearing figure in shock. He couldn't believe it. This guy improved again? His speed is faster than mine? Hinata reminded. Naruto left in the direction of Naruto's building. The meaning of this sentence was, Naruto went to find Naruto. Just wait to be turned into a pancake. Or if you think you can escape, you can try to escape first. Chapter 182. In front of the barbecue shop, Kakashi hesitated and said, Naruto won't be so shameless, right? Hinata blinked. Is it really okay to say that your boyfriend is shameless in front of his girlfriend? Kakashi changed the question and asked, Is Tsunade very protective? Hinata smiled and said, I once saw Jiraiya. Sama was kicked away by Naruto because of a sentence he said in front of Naruto-sama. Kakashi. If even Jiraiya-sama was sent flying, I feel like it's over. But it's not my fault. I gave my father's precious handwritten letter to that kid, and that kid actually asked me for money. Isn't he asking for a beating? While Kakashi stood in place and hesitated, Naruto directly jumped into the open window of Naruto's building. The strong wind swept, and the documents on Tsunade's table flew all over the room. When she was about to attack, she saw Naruto covered in blood. Tsunade was angry and shouted, Didn't you promise me not to use that body flicker technique? At the same time, Tsunade also trembled, but most of it was not because of anger, but the effect of hemophobia. Shizen wanted to block Tsunade's line of sight with her body. Naruto said, This is just the exposure therapy. It's a waste to block it. At this time, he still didn't forget the exposure therapy. To be honest, Shizen also admired Naruto. Tsunade's face became paler and paler, and her body trembled more and more. Even Naruto couldn't bear it. She actively summoned 2 multiple shadow clones to quickly heal herself, and at the same time, The bloodstains on her clothes were wiped away with wind blades. Then she began to complain pitifully, "Tsunade-ne-san, if I didn't use this trick, I wouldn't have been able to escape from that guy. You don't know. That guy is too cruel. Look at all the hair on my body. It's all burnt. Also, the smell on my body is like roasted suckling pig." Dolphin's expression was serious. "Did the pig provoke you again?" Tun-Tun couldn't help but get up and snuggle into Quiet Noise's embrace to seek comfort. Tsunade took several deep breaths to calm down. She glanced at Naruto's hands. There really was the smell of roasted pig feet. Looking at Naruto's newly grown eyelashes, they were also curled by the electricity. They broke off in the blink of an eye. It seemed like they had been carbonized. "Who did it?" she asked in annoyance. Naruto complained, "Kakashi, that guy, Sister Tsunade, I'm telling you, that guy is too much. He electrocutes me all the time, whether I'm happy or not. He's a pervert." Tsunade naturally knew what kind of person Naruto was. Sometimes she even wanted to give Naruto a beating. However, knowing was one thing. His disciple had been taught a lesson by someone else, so he was still unhappy. This was the common mentality of people who were protective of their own. Even if they were wrong, they shouldn't be hit. Even if you should hit him, you shouldn't hit him. In short, you bullied my family. Just you wait. It just so happened that Tsunade was very protective of her own people. Therefore, this seemingly ridiculous request for an adult to help fight was really in line with Naruto's wishes. When Kakashi saw Tsunade coming over with the ragged Naruto, his mood was really complicated. Naruto was actually dragged out to fight to vent his anger. Who would believe this? And I'm also Naruto's instructor, right? It's only right to punish him appropriately. Who can speak for me? Kakashi looked at Hinata. Hinata looked at her toes as if she was measuring which one was bigger and which one was smaller. Hinata. It seems that there's no need to think about it. For a moment, Kakashi felt that he was a failure as a captain. Naruto-sama. Tsunade waved her hand. I'm not here today as Naruto. In one sentence, Kakashi knew that it was over. Tsunade pointed at Naruto and said, "Look at the burnt smell on this child's body. Did you electrocute him?" Kakashi took a deep breath. "Since you're not here as Naruto, then I'll be the judge," he explained. "Well, I think as the captain of Naruto, I have the right to punish Naruto's improper behavior." After saying that, Kakashi felt that there was nothing wrong with what he said. Next, Tsunade would ask what improper behavior. At that time, he would tell her that he gave Naruto the precious letter, but Naruto reached out and asked for money. Then even if Tsunade was protecting him, she would still be reasonable, right? There were so many people around. Then I'll electrocute this kid Naruto again. Humph, even if I find him, I'll still electrocute you. Who told you to have a brain that lacks electricity? However, to Kakashi's surprise, Tsunade asked, "You're his captain? When did that happen?" "If you're Naruto's captain, then I have nothing to say about the management of the team. But the key is, are you?" Kakashi wanted to say that of course I am, but he thought of one thing, I'm not really his captain now. Just a few hours ago, Naruto officially announced the disbandment of Team 7. And he was transferred to the Umbu. There was no relationship between him and Naruto at all. And he seems to have never taught Naruto, or pointed out anything to Naruto. This is a pain in the ass. Kakashi had nothing to say. Tsunade smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't bully you. I'll give you time to prepare. Just one punch. After that, no matter how big your injury is, I'll heal you." In addition, Naruto repaired your sword and you gave Naruto's letter. As for Naruto asking you for money, I don't think it's too much. Don't say it's a joke. Naruto told me that he will use live steel to repair your sword. You should have seen the value of live steel. Of course, the most important thing is that I just want to find someone to use monster strength on so that Naruto can understand the key points of this move more clearly. Tsunade smiled. Naruto also smiled, patted his chest and promised, "Don't worry, Tsunade-ne-san, I will watch carefully." Tsunade-ne-san? Okay, Kakashi's mood was complicated. Live steel? He naturally knew what it was, but Naruto had live steel in his hands? This surprised him. What surprised him even more was that Naruto was willing to use it to repair his sword. This will be a big favor, at least not less than the letter he gave. Looking at Naruto's expression, there was naturally no hatred or anything. His face was full of pride, nothing more than wanting to beat him. This is even more painful. I'm not afraid of people being unreasonable, but I'm afraid that the unreasonable person is stronger than me. What's more, what he said is quite reasonable. Today, it seems that I can only admit defeat, but he still wants to save it. And for the strength of one of the Sannin, he's also very curious. Kakashi raised his left hand and pulled up his forehead protector, revealing his Sharingan. Kakashi is going to be serious? Naruto reminded in time. Kakashi-sensei, in my experience of courting death, at this time, you pretend to be a salted fish and take the hit honestly. But if you want to resist, you will anger the dragon scale, and the result will be miserable. Also, if you are hospitalized, I won't have time to take care of you. I've been very busy recently. Naruto was telling the truth, but sometimes the truth is the most painful. Kakashi said with a serious expression. I'm ready, and I'm not necessarily going to lose. Kakashi said as he condensed the lightning attribute chakra in his left hand and the water attribute chakra in his right hand. Naruto thought of something and exclaimed, You've researched the fusion of water and lightning Kekkei Genkai? Kakashi said proudly, It's not that difficult. Tsunade saw that Kakashi was so eager to fight, and her own fighting spirit couldn't help but rise, dispelling the fear stimulated by the blood. She raised her thumb and pointed to the side. Field 44, that's more suitable. Chapter 183. Field 44, also known as the Forest of Death. It's the place where Naruto and Chunin will take the exam. Tsunade, Naruto, Shizune, Kakashi, and Hinata came to an open space in the forest. Naruto has also been to this place. It's the desert area where Naruto met my love. Tsunade looked around with satisfaction and said, Here, it's a very soft place, you won't be hurt too much if you fall. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? During this period of time, Kakashi's mind had become a lot clearer. He suddenly realized that he was looking for trouble. One of the Sannin, Tsunade? Did he become a little arrogant recently after developing a new ninjutsu? Also, although Tsunade said that she didn't speak in Naruto's position, the fact is that she's still Naruto. What am I doing? Who can tell me what I'm doing? Kakashi looked at the shadow under his feet with a dead fish face. He hoped that there would be a reliable righteous person to save him at this time. And that guy, Naruto, didn't he just use a little bit of electricity? It's been more than a month since they last saw each other. It's not wrong to store them up for fun, right? Is this a good thing? What a ruthless guy. Kakashi-sensei, are you trembling? Naruto turned around and observed Kakashi. The blue veins on Kakashi's face jumped, thunder and lightning gathered in his hand, and he wanted to give Naruto's face a slap. Naruto suddenly stood still, pointed at him with his finger and asked, What are you doing? You want to electrocute me again? Then he turned around and said to Tsunade coquettishly, Tsunade-san, did you see the scene just now? I didn't do anything out of line, but Kakashi wanted to electrocute me. What a familiar scene. It made Kakashi couldn't help but think of the time when he endured in school. At that time, which idiot was the one who tattled to the teacher all day? He couldn't remember clearly. He seemed to have died. Tsunade waved to Kakashi. Are you ready? If you're ready, I'll go. Since he couldn't avoid it, he would just have to fight. Kakashi glanced at Naruto bitterly. He was still lamenting in his heart. Isn't it just a few more times? Why did you have to find Tsunade, one of the Sannin? Don't you think this is very childish? Sigh. Why did Tsunade have to cooperate with such a childish thing? And why did he have to get involved in such a childish matter? Or does Tsunade want to entrust him with an important task, and want to take this opportunity to test his strength? This felt much more reliable. Fighting just because of Naruto's provocation, that's too ridiculous. Thoughts flashed through Kakashi's mind. If Shizune knew what Kakashi was thinking, she would definitely snort and say, You haven't seen anything more ridiculous. What's the big deal about gang fighting? There's even a casino opening together. There's even someone who calls his mother a good son. Besides, I don't know how many times Jiraiya flew because of Naruto's words. What can I say? I can only say that you're too naive. This master and disciple, if you use common sense to infer, you will definitely lose. Shizen held Tun and Hinata and stood on the side. Naruto shouted to Bet. Which direction do you think Kakashi-sensei will fly in? The sky or the ground? This voice was not taboo at all. Anyway, as a ninja with Kakashi's hearing could definitely hear it. Therefore, the obedient Hinata and the self-proclaimed decent Shizen were determined not to participate in this meaningless gamble that would attract hatred. On the contrary, Tun pointed to the ground with her left hand and pointed to the sky with her right hand. Naruto also talked to Tun. What do you mean by these two pig feet? Pointing to the sky and the ground? Choose one of the two, I tell you. Even if you are a pig, you are doomed to fail. Then Tun thought about it and pointed to the sky with one hand. Naruto nodded. Then I will choose the ground. If you win the bet, I can fulfill one of your wishes. One person and one pig looked at each other and hit it off. Kakashi couldn't stand this scene. His left hand condensed the lightning attribute chakra, and his right hand condensed the water attribute chakra. And then he clasped his hands together. The irregular lightning disappeared and was replaced by a cylindrical light belt that condensed together like a neon light tube. The light belt was connected end to end around the body. At the same time, the Sharingan locked onto Tsunade. Tsunade, on the other hand, was much simpler. She just punched him. Chakra instantly released all over her body, and then quickly shrank in her right fist. The next moment, there was a loud bang, and Tsunade disappeared from her place. In the audience, only Hinata could see the afterimage. She punched toward Kakashi. The fist didn't hit Kakashi's body. To be precise, there was still a distance of 2 meters between Tsunade and Kakashi. But the chakra from Tsunade's hand exploded in all directions and hit Kakashi's body. For Kakashi, Tsunade's punch was very straight. He saw it. But he didn't have time to dodge. The moment the fist hit his body, he felt as if he was hit by a wild boar up to 3 or 4 meters high. The strong wind suddenly poured into his eyes, nose, and ears. He only felt that his whole body was hit by the airflow in an instant, and his body flew out. Kakashi flew. Tun won. But now the key was obviously not this, but Kakashi didn't even have the power to fight back under Tsunade's punch. He flew up 100 meters? Or even higher in the sky. After more than 10 seconds, he plunged down. Tsunade explained. Just now, I used 4 layers of Yang chakra superimposed on the monstrous strength, but the power was not concentrated in one place, but spread out to produce the effect. Naruto immediately flattered. Tsunade-sen is mighty. Just a casual punch and Kakashi has no power to fight back. Tsunade shook her head and corrected. It won't be so easy to hit him again. The reason for this effect should be that he didn't expect that I would hit him with air. With the dynamic vision of the Sharingan, he can see my movement trajectory, and then react at the moment when I get close to him. Therefore, he was hit because of a mistaken judgment. In addition, this isn't a real battle, so his vigilance is somewhat lax. Tsunade's evaluation was very objective and accurate, but it didn't affect Naruto's flattery. Naruto smiled and said, "It doesn't matter whether he was careless or not, and it doesn't matter whether he didn't expect it. I killed him with one punch. I killed him with one punch. In a real battle, who cares if you're prepared or not?" Tsunade-sen even asked him to be prepared. So he's still too much of a scumbag. Kakashi was falling. Although the wind caused by the palm was fierce, the power was not concentrated in one place, so he didn't suffer any injuries. Only the moment the wind rushed into his ears, he was a little confused. When he fell, he was still very awake, so he heard Naruto's words very clearly. "So painful, what should I do? I was blown away with one punch. I'm too ashamed to see anyone. It's better to pretend to be dead." As a result, Kakashi didn't receive any damage in the air, but because he was pretending to be dead, he fell straight to the ground with a thud, just like a broken sack falling from a high altitude and hitting the ground. Kakashi was pretending to be dead. Hinata didn't remove the Byakugan, so she directly saw the scene of Chakra rushing out to protect himself at the moment of falling. But she was very obedient, so she didn't say anything. Tsunade didn't need to say anything. She knew best what kind of strength she used and what kind of effect it had. But she understood that she shouldn't say anything. She was used to Jiraiya pretending to be a bad guy sometimes. Shizen had been with Tsunade for a long time, and her medical ninjutsu wasn't bad. Naruto, the rising star of the medical ninjutsu world. Real fainting wasn't a problem for him. Don't say anything? Hee okay, I won't say anything this time. Naruto smiled and exclaimed. Ah, Kakashi, sensei seems to have fainted. I have a quick-acting medicine here. I have to give one to Kakashi sensei. So he took out a durian-flavored fart candy. For a moment, Tsunade and Shizen stared at Naruto a few meters away. But Tubu was excited and jumped down from Shizen's arms. Shizen stopped Tubu, but Tubu told Naruto with stubborn little eyes. I won. You said you would fulfill my wish. Naruto didn't know if others understood, but Naruto understood. Then he flicked the candy into Tubu's mouth. Shizen was so scared that she dropped Tubu and ran away. Tubu showed a satisfied expression when the durian candy entered his mouth. Then Naruto carried Tubu, like a posture for a child, opened Tubu's thighs, and directly faced Kakashi's face. Kakashi was sleeping soundly. Naruto and Tubu looked at each other. Their eyes were full of you know what I mean. What was rare was that Tsunade could have stopped this tragedy from happening, but instead she stood on the side and watched the show. Perhaps it was because she had fallen for this trick in the past, so, when she saw others fall for it, there was a subtle balance in her heart. Hinata didn't know what was going on, so she quietly asked, "What is Naruto doing?" Shizen and Tsunade looked at each other, then pursed their lips and shook their heads at the same time. It seemed they were looking forward to it. It was just that they didn't know if they were looking forward to Kakashi being embarrassed, or looking forward to Naruto being beaten to death by Kakashi. It had been 15 seconds since Tubu ate the candy, 20 seconds 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 Naruto, fire. However, there was no movement. Everyone was looking forward to it. Suddenly, Tubu's face wrinkled as if he was in pain. Then he opened his mouth and sneezed. Sneeze. Shizen and Tsunade were puzzled, but Naruto already had a bad feeling. Could it be that he took the wrong candy? A sneezed candy. Why does it look so familiar? Then Tubu sneezed 3 times in a row. On the second sneeze, something unknown shot out. Then with the third sneeze, it turned from dry to wet. The angle was right in Kakashi's face. Tubu looked at Naruto in pain. The expression in his eyes said very clearly, "What did you give me to eat?" Naruto shrugged his shoulders, put down Tubule, and ran away. As soon as Tubu landed, he subconsciously wanted to chase after Naruto, but his stomach was in pain, and he bent his front legs and shot behind him. It hit Kakashi again, and by this time, Naruto had already run as far as he could. In the end, he muttered to himself, it's over, Tsunade can't save herself." Then he thought, that's not right. If a pig has a bad stomach and diarrhea, it's the pig's fault. Then he suddenly stopped and went to catch Tubu again. "Tubu, why did you eat something bad? What did Shizen give you? Ouch. Don't run around and poop." Tubu sneezed, and something slippery scurried behind him. Kakashi finally sat up, opened his hands and looked at his stinky body. And his dripping hair? It's raining? Kakashi was confused. What's so smelly? Then in a daze he saw Tun scurrying like a goose. Then he looked at Naruto, who was making a fuss, and screamed, "Naruto!" Naruto stood at attention and replied honestly, it's not me, it's Tubu's poop." Tubu, holding his stomach in pain, turned around and pointed his butt at Naruto. Naruto dodged, then pointed at Tubu and said, "Look, I don't know what's wrong with this pig, but he's pointing his butt at everyone." Naruto dodged and hid behind Shizen. Kakashi's body trembled. Still staring at Naruto, gritted his teeth and said, "Ming! Human!" Then lightning flashed and the body flicker technique approached. Naruto was already on guard, and under the second gate of the 8 inner hidden gates, the wind blade exploded. Storm wound. Whoosh! A strong wind swept over, leaving only one sentence. "I'm sorry, I have to use it again." Tsunade and Shizen looked at each other, then looked at the pitiful Tubu. who was holding his stomach and whimpering. Shizen walked in front of him and scolded. Who told you to eat blindly? Tubo's mood wasn't good to begin with. I'm already like this, and you're still scolding me. In a fit of anger, he raised his butt at Shizen and smacked her. Shizen froze on the spot, then screamed desperately, Ming! Human! Go to hell! At this time, Naruto was running for his life in the distance, shouting, Ah! 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 Kakashi is pooping his pants. Ah! 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 Who can save me? He's going to wipe me. Kakashi's face was red, and lightning shot out. The slimy things on his body were cooked, but the smell became worse. There was a smell of burning horse dung. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.